JeffMAC. What is up, everyone? Please take a second to hit that like button. The more likes that we get in a short period of time, the more people the algorithm will bring into the chat to come and hang out with us and see what's going on. So please hit that like button. Let me know how you're doing, and happy freedom. So I just found out it was Friday, and I thought it was Wednesday, but that's okay. Happy Friday, I guess, to all you beautiful hooligans. What's up, Meowtin' Life? What's up, Johnny? What's up, G-Ski? What's up, Hungry Camel? What's up, Really Rick? What's up, Sawdog? What's up, MD? What's up, Justin? What's up, Shanti? What's up, Shelly Babes? What's up, Proud Ankle? What's up, B Legend? What's up, Robert? What's up, Mike Rays? What's up, Parabellum? Happy Freedom. What's up, 24/7? What's up, Life Like? What's up, Rebel Sun? What's up, Steven? What's up, Tara? Happy freedom, all of you hooligans. Oh, dang. Thank you so much, Norman, for continuing the membership for continuing the membership program. You're officially a hooligan, and I appreciate you. Thank you. Well, any moment now, KJP is going to be stepping on stage. Eventually, she won't. I think she's going to end up quitting this job. She's terrible at it. It's getting to the point where she can't even circle back or ring around the rosy or nothing. It's all, I'm going to have to refer you to the White House counsel. Blah, 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 blah. So we'll see what today brings. She's technically already 7 minutes late, but who am I to talk about being late, right? Give me a second here. I'm going to read through the chats, and then we'll go down the list of what we're going to cover today. What's up, Donna Sparks? Happy freedom. What's up, Daryl? What's up, Snooks? Thank you guys for watching on the JeffMAC Live YouTube channel. Appreciate you being here. Thought Twitch wasn't running for a second there. Holy. Silence, maybe? What's up, Silence? What's up, Two Ruby Shoes? What's up, everyone on Twitch? Happy Freedom Cerebrus. What's up, everyone on Odyssey? What's up, Pickle Fingers? What's up, Joe? What's up, Slowly TV? What's up, Pumpkin? What's up, Snooks? You're everywhere. What's up, Rasta? Appreciate you guys watching on Rumble. Silly Facebook. What's up, Karen? What's up, Anthony? Happy freedom. What's up, everyone on Facebook? I don't know how many more Facebook lives we're gonna run. I just don't. You guys are gonna have to go find me on these other platforms. I really think this could be the last time we go live on Facebook. It just really doesn't support anything we do. I appreciate you guys that do watch. I appreciate all the support you guys give to me, but Facebook does not support me at all. They're not giving me any of the features or any of the stuff that I'm owed because I'm not liberal enough. I'm not marching the streets and burning buildings down, so I don't qualify for all the good stuff. So just go ahead and try and find you a platform to watch other than Facebook, because I really think this is going to be the last time we go live on there. I'm also trying to figure out how to read the chat on Twitter, because my Twitter is growing and I go live on there, but I can't read the chat from a computer, and I can't sit here and stare at my phone and run a live at the same time. So you guys could give Twitter a try if you'd like. Check the link tree, check the homepage at jeffmaclive.com. But I think this could be the last live for Facebook. So today we have the White House press briefing. It's going to start any minute now. Then we're going to be covering a live from earlier that is titled Old Man Walter and Hyena Harris welcome the nation's governors to the White House. That's quite a long video, so definitely get some snacks and some coffee before that starts. Then we're going to be covering a video titled, I don't know, McCanny, I don't know, you just people's names. Weighs in on leaked bombshell FBI memo about Catholic ideologists. Apparently the FBI is now going to go after Catholic people. I don't know. Last year, people who practice religious holidays such as Christmas or Hanukkah, and anyone that acknowledges that 9/11 happened or its memorial. That was last year's extremists. Now it's the Catholics, so I don't know. Anyways, moving forward, we will also be covering a video that is titled Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Expose FBI Political Weaponization. Then we're going to cover a video titled Hunter Biden's Attorney Denies Republicans' Request for Records. And then we have a video titled Marjorie Taylor Greene on heckling Biden at the State of the Union address. People crying over that. I think it's hilarious. I love it. I keep sharing it and all that stuff. I love it. Call them out. Then we'll be wrapping up today with a video that is titled Alaska Senator Warns White House on Spy Flights. Next time, we'll shoot it down. We'll see. We'll see. Everyone's always talking, but nothing ever happens. But either way, that's what we're covering today. Let me check on everyone and everything, and we'll see where we're going to start. I already have the White House press briefing pulled up. She is 12 minutes late, so I imagine at any moment she'll step on stage. Actually, I'll find a tweet. I bookmarked a tweet yesterday that I thought was pretty awesome, and I think you guys will too. Let me find it really quick. Wham! Fox News, Peter Doocy, Hillary Vaughn announced birth of their first child. This tweet is from last night. Well, I guess it's 2:16 this morning. I was sitting there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and all of a sudden this came across the feed. So that's where Peter Doocy's been. Super awesome. Big shout out to Peter Doocy. He's officially a hooligan, having a little hooligan. Super awesome. But anyways, I seen that, bookmarked it. I was like, oh, the hooligans need to hear this. We thought he was locked in the basement somewhere. We thought he was banned from the press briefing room. Nope, he's out there having little baby Americans. Awesome. Alright, well, I'm going to read through the chat. Kind of nervous about getting started on anything because I think the shortest videos are 6-7 minutes long. We're gonna get through it, and then she's gonna step on stage, and then there's gonna be conflict. Now, let me read through the chat really quick. What's up, Red America? What's up, Shadow Patriot? Robert, I will look that up. Thank you so much, Cornish, for gifting 10 memberships over on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you. Make sure you guys thank Cornish. That stuff's not free. Happy Freedom Speedy Girl. Thanks for being here. What's up, Jamie and Deborah? Happy Freedom Really Rick. I think my mouse is dying. My scroll wheel's not working. I sit here at this desk too much. Shelly Babes, Peter as a little man. He had a little boy. That was the one thing I didn't go look. I don't know. I guess it's from all the nonsense on the internet. I was like, oh, I better not go look its gender up. That's probably a hate crime now. I don't know. I do not know. Thank you so much, Snooks, for gifting 10 memberships over on YouTube. I appreciate you and everything you do. Thank you so much, Snooks. Well, we could get started. Corinne can wait for us. We're not going to wait for her. She's no one special. So we're going to get started here. You can see the name up in the top left corner because my pronunciation of names is just horrific and hilarious at the same time. But DJ McInerney, no, I don't know who this person is. Either way, they weigh in on leaked bombshell FBI memo about Catholic ideologists. This video is about 7 minutes long. We're going to get started with this while we wait for KJP to show up and show us how dumb she is.
Well, let's bring in Kayleigh McEnany, host of Outnumbered, and the former White House press secretary. Kayleigh, good to see you, and congratulations on the new addition to the family. Woohoo! Yeah, I saw the pictures on Outnumbered.
Thank you. He's
adorable.
He's right upstairs, and congratulations to you guys on the new show. It's awesome.
Thank you. So let's get your take on how did Republicans and Democrats do in this hearing to expose the politicization of the FBI and DOJ?
They did a great job. I mean, I loved when Jim Jordan, he talked about these whistleblowers from the FBI, saying it's unprecedented, that nothing like this has happened before. This number, dozens of whistleblowers coming to him. But what Jim Jordan does so well, and I'm so glad he's the chairman of this, is he lays out facts that are indisputable. In fact, he laid out this timeline here. I have it. You know, on November 18th of 21, the FBI put a threat tag on parents. This is according to a whistleblower. And he goes on to say on May 11th of 2022, dozens of parents with the threat tags were investigated. Imagine that, the FBI investigating parents. But he laid out data points, facts, dates that are indisputable. So I personally can't wait to hear from these whistleblowers. I think it'll be chilling what we hear, because if today just touched the surface, what we learned is we have an FBI, just as you both said, totally and completely out of control and are tyrannically wielding a level of power they're not meant to have.
And I always love to hear Jamie Raskin get upset, and they were not happy he wasn't about the hearing. Kayleigh, listen to this.
It could take oversight down a very dark alley filled with conspiracy theories and disinformation, a place where facts are the enemy.
My favorite.
Destruction is the overriding goal. Millions of Americans already feared that weaponization is the right name for this special subcommittee. Not because weaponization of the government is its target, but because weaponization of the government is its purpose.
Come on, Kayleigh.
Come on, man.
Come on. And this is why it's my view. And you may disagree with me, Sean. I know you were on the Hill, so you may have a different institutional view. But it's my view, just like Jamie Raskin had the January 6th committee, which was totally partisan. You did not have anyone else on the Republican side who was a true Republican asking questions or presenting an alternate point of view. I wish this committee, they would have one committee. My colleague Stephen Miller said it yesterday, this weaponization committee perhaps, where it was a select committee of only Republicans. Let's play the same game as the Democrats, not have AOC screaming on the other side of a committee hearing, or Jamie Raskin calling it conspiracy theories. A Republican committee that can be mature, adult-like, and fact-driven. This is good so far, but I'd love to see us follow that same mold. You know,
Kayleigh, I've been advocating for that. Kevin McCarthy has taken the higher ground, though, and higher road and said, you know what, I just won't let Democrats serve on some committees, but I will let them serve on a committee. That's not what Nancy Pelosi and Democrats did to Marjorie Taylor Greene or Paul Gosar. But I want to switch gears on you because this is a meaningful story for me as a Catholic. The FBI, they're reportedly retracting a leaked document that advised radical traditionalist Catholic ideology is attracting violent extremists. Now, the memo reads, quote, interest of radically or ethnically or racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists in radical traditionalist Catholic
He reads as good as I do.
Certainly presents new mitigation opportunities. All right, Kayleigh. So I don't know if it's holy water. I don't know if it's incense, you know, in the traditional Latin Mass. But can you believe the FBI is targeting Catholics? Which, by the way, I thought that was protected in our Constitution. But they're now going to target.
Isn't old man Walter supposedly a Catholic or something?
It's unbelievable. Yes. I mean, look, I'm a Southern Baptist girl, but I went to Catholic school my whole life. My husband's Catholic. We go to Mass every other week, and I see Tegan there raising her hand. But I can tell you, I've never encountered a radical traditional Catholic or any Catholic wanting to commit violence. This is insane, and it was a creature, I believe, of the Southern Poverty Law Center, which targets mainstream groups like the Alliance for Defending Freedom and just calls them a hate group. So you have a left-wing organization that targets a faith And then here you have the FBI then falling right in line. It's amazing, but not surprising, because this is what they did to pro-life groups. You remember Mr. Hook, who was a pro-life advocate, who DOJ charged, and he was just acquitted by a jury this week. They go after the pro-lifers, but not those attacking the pro-life centers.
At Quantico, they teach the FBI that the Southern Poverty Law Center is not a legitimate organization. They create boogeymen to then fundraise off of said evildoers. Just a little, can I just have a quick moment? A little bit of Virginia history. So the first governor of Virginia was Patrick Henry, and in Richmond, he gave his famous "Give me liberty or give me death" speech, which was the call to revolution. And if not for Patrick Henry, we would not have a Bill of Rights. We would not have the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, because he was suspicious of the Constitution and the power handed to the federal government. And so by the FBI in Richmond targeting Catholics, it is a very violation of the First Amendment. So they are proving to Patrick Henry, who died in 1799 and is buried in my hometown, that he was right. We had everything to fear from an too powerful, overweening federal government.
Well said.
Sorry.
I can't tell if she has a draw or if she's having trouble talking around her teeth.
Freedom of religion also protects freedom of speech. The First Amendment.
There's something going on there.
When I was White House press secretary, going back to the weaponization point, my account was taken off Twitter on October 14th, 2020, when I shared the New York Post story. It was my personal account. But just think about that. To add to your First Amendment point, you have the FBI.
Karine is super late.
Groups, and all of a sudden, the White House press secretary, though it was my personal account, is taken off of one of those platforms. So the federal government perhaps undermining the executive branch of the federal government, which is actually the elected portion of it. It's extraordinary, Dagan, and this is why I'm glad that we're getting to the bottom of it, at least here in Republicans on the Hill, certainly.
Kelly McEnany, thank you for joining us, and again, congratulations.
Well, that's that. Thank you so much, Nave New Yorker, for that $10 donation on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you. Awaken, she has a southern draw. I wasn't able to tell because, you know, the reporters all try to speak like each other, like they're giving you an English lesson and stuff. And then it was, I don't know, it was twisting up that accent. So I wasn't sure. I was like, either there's like, I'm trying to think what I'm allowed to say. Just let me think on it. I just knew there was something going on there. We'll just say that. Wasn't trying to make fun of her. I was investigating, okay? I was trying to figure out what was going on. Well, KJP is super late. I guess we'll just keep moving forward. So next up, we have a video titled Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz Expose FBI Political Weaponization. Go ahead and drop some ones and some coffees in the chat if you're ready to go. I'm reading through the chat really quick. I don't want to miss you guys. Johnny, chicken bacon. I did a bunch of chicken bacons right before I went live. That way I didn't sound like old man Walter. It's never a good look. Never go full old man Walter. That's my warning to you. Shelly Babes, I love her. She's trying to cover it a little bit. Yeah, see, and I don't know. I know in Michigan we have our own nasally accent that I can't hear because I've lived here pretty much my whole life. But I like those southern accents. I think it's cool. I think it's real authentic sounding, and I like that. So I wasn't making fun of her. I was just trying to figure out what was going on. I think all that proper speech and then that southern accent, I thought she had a touch of the tism. I wasn't sure what was going on, and that's fine. You know, it's all fine. I was just trying to figure it out. That's all there was to it. Don't get mad. It's all jokes. No worries. Let's get her started, hooligans.
Of the House Judiciary. Here now with more. Chairman of the House
With volume.
Committee, Jim Jordan, and Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is with us. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Congressman Jordan, you know, we had an impeachment of a president over one.
Matt Gaetz looks crazy.
Yeah.
You said you've never seen anything like this in your life. Dozens and dozens of whistleblowers coming forward, not Republican or Democrat. What are they telling you?
No, you're exactly right, Sean. I think this is an important point. This is not Republicans. This is not conservatives. This is not Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan. This is dozens of FBI whistleblowers coming to talk to us. And they first came to talk to us while we were in the minority, where all we could do was begin to get the facts, begin to tell their story. And many of these individuals have been retaliated against. And they're good people, just like Nicole Parker and Thomas Baker, who testified today. But the first one came for his deposition on Tuesday. The next one is Friday. The third one is next week. On Tuesday,
This guy's excited.
what Sarah reported, 140 people come to the rally here in Washington, D.C., and they were supposed to be investigated because the Washington field office told the folks in Boston to investigate these people for simply coming to a political rally, for goodness sake. And thank goodness the folks in the field office, which Mr.
John Megamind. He does kind of look like Megamind.
No. We are not going to investigate people for exercising their First Amendment rights. And that's really what this is all about. So God bless the good people who you're right to talk about, and the folks in the FBI who were doing the good work, like those witnesses we had today. We are here to serve them, but make sure that the leadership is not going after the American people.
Chairman, let me ask you this, because Senator Grassley testified today that they acquired the authentic bank records that substantiated findings of their previous two reports, and that being that they financially have links between Hunter and James Biden to entities and individuals connected with the communist Chinese regime. We hear about a $1.5 billion deal with the Bank of China. We hear about a $5 million no-interest forgivable loan. We hear about a $100,000 shopping spree with a Chinese national. Is that all true, sir?
Well, we'll wait for their report. From Senator Johnson testified that their report is coming, their second report. We'll look forward to that. That's the kind of information that I know Chairman Comer on the Oversight Committee is looking to get. He's looking to get access to these suspicious activity reports that supposedly there are 150 of them that exist on the banking transactions and records from the Biden business, family business operation.
You know, Matt Gaetz, I liked your line when you said you're not here to trash the FBI, but rescue the FBI from political capture.
I think Jim Jordan used to fight.
James Comey.
He's got flat ears.
Christopher Wray. And I said when Christopher Wray became the FBI director, he has a duty to clean up the world's premier law enforcement agency.
Sean Hannity's got a lot of makeup on. It looks like his hair is painted on.
Can it be rescued, or do we need to rebuild a new FBI, one that can be trusted, one that doesn't take in political considerations, one that believes in equal justice?
Kind of looks like they did his eyelash. He looks a little feminine.
If we decentralize the power outside of Washington, D.C., I think we can vindicate the true and honorable and just purpose of the FBI without falling victim to political capture. And Sean, it's every election. Before the 2016 campaign, an FBI lawyer changed evidence before a secret court. Before the 2018 campaign, the FBI was breathing life into the lying Steele
He used to wrestle.
2020.
I figured you only see those smashed ears for so many reasons.
Make you think that Trump was somehow a Russian agent or shaking down Vladimir Zelensky. And then before 2022, they raided Mar-a-Lago, all the while suppressing the information on the Hunter Biden laptop and suppressing anything that was derogatory to Joe Biden. And when we let the Democrats bring any human being...
Try not to pick my nose on the live.
Maybe the government isn't weaponized against our people. Maybe Jim Jordan and I are wrong.
I don't get down like old man Walter.
Lobbyist, but not just any lobbyist, a lobbyist that was an Obama-era DOJ political appointee who now represents Google and Pfizer and George Soros as a paid influence peddler. Bringing in a lobbyist to try to dissuade us from our path to expose the weaponization of this government would be like bringing in Joe Biden to teach your comprehension and cognition class, or maybe Chris Christie to do your weight loss planning with you. It was ludicrous.
They just play a laugh track.
Exit question. Chairman, I'll ask you first. Was there a well-designed and orchestrated censorship campaign to influence the 2020 election? Is that a fact at this point?
Yeah, and I like the term that Professor Turley used, censorship by surrogate. Here's a fundamental question, Sean. Why is the FBI sending a list of accounts to Twitter and telling Twitter, we think these accounts, we think these tweets violate Twitter's terms of service? Why are they doing that? If that's not pressure, if that's not coercion to take down free speech, to take down political speech, I don't know what is. So I like that term, censorship by surrogate, because that's what took place, and we know that because of the Twitter files.
Matt Gaetz, do you agree censorship influenced the outcome of the 2020 election?
Undeniably on the laptop story alone, but we are just starting to learn all of the different features of shadow banning and trying to shape political thought for people in this country. I just want an FBI that goes and stops the bad guys from committing crimes and holds them accountable when they do, not an FBI and Department of Justice that's trying to shape the political thought of our fellow Americans. We can do that for ourselves. We can decide who we want to vote for without the FBI and the DOJ trying to manipulate the digital marketplace of ideas.
All right, Congressman Matt Gaetz, thank you. Chairman Jim Jordan, thank you. We appreciate it.
Viking Vet, Hannity has a live audience. Oh, I didn't realize. I've only listened to Hannity on Wood Radio when I used to work for this other factory. We'll say that. I think I'm pretty sure I'm still under non-disclosure, so I can't tell you what it is. But wasn't allowed to listen to anything but Christian radio and Wood Radio, and that's all I was allowed to listen to. Oh, and Billy Graham sermons and stuff like that. That's all I was allowed to listen to. I was not allowed to listen to anything else. So I used to hear Hannity on the radio. But I didn't hear no laughing and stuff in the background, so it caught me off guard. Norman, did you see the proof about Nord Stream? Yes, I have seen that. But I've also noticed that that stuff's not on YouTube. And so I'm wondering if it's against community guidelines and stuff. We have articles and all that stuff on it. I'm keeping an eye on it, but what are they going to do about it? Probably nothing. Just like the laptop, just like everything else. They're not going to do anything. And so it's starting to burn me out, so I'm kind of trying to take a step back from that stuff. What's up, John Costello? You really haven't missed much yet. We're waiting for the White House press briefing, but they can't find KJP. She's probably somewhere making out with Jill Handler, super groupie of the year. I like that they keep passing around that article saying that Hyena Harris hasn't seen the video yet. How have you not? Like, how have you not? They played it for 2 days. Now the video circulating is Lady Gaga getting thrown up while playing on the drum set. I've probably seen that video 1,000 times already today. I hate it. It's in my head. I got a pretzel in my head. Viking Vet. Jim Jordan said on Tim Pool's show that he's a wrestler. That's why he's got cauliflower ear. Yeah. Yep. My friend Carmelo, he's been doing jiu-jitsu and random mixed martial arts pretty much his whole life since he was like 9 years old from what I understand. And he's kind of sensitive about the way his ears look. And I'm like, man, nobody cares. I'm like, just, you know, tell girls you're in the war. They like that kind of stuff. Don't worry about that. But his ears are all throwing up gang signs and stuff too. So I knew when I seen it. I was like, I bet Jim Jordan's got those hands. That's Jim Hansley over there. I'll show you what he's talking about. Snooks, it's your stream. Pick it. Well, I was gonna sneeze. You know how hard it is to sit here and act like a commentator when I got this little tickling stuff going on in my brain? And then all I could think is old man Walter shoving his fingers all the way up his nose right on the live TV. That wasn't gonna be me. No, that wasn't gonna be me. Reading through the chat really quick. See what's going on. These other videos are a little bit longer. KJP is going to get pushed off the schedule here. She better come on. Speedy Girl. Yeah, but Corinne's had like 2 or 3 channels. So she starts like building the channel up and then something happens and then they knock her tower over. So I think she's had a few thousand followers before and then they knocked her tower over. I don't know, for some reason I don't get her notifications anymore on Facebook or on Twitter or YouTube, I mean. Miss Jamie, I don't have to worry about that. You know, this no pants life is the life for me. Ohio Kyle, don't eat it. I just feed it to Klaus Daniels. Why do you think he's so meaty? No, I'm just kidding. Now I'm gonna have PETA here or whatever they are, like on the South Park episode. Never mind. Never mind. Joe, that green puke stuff is stupid and pointless. When I seen it, all it could make me think was when I was younger, the only people that had crazy hairdo and body modifications were artists and people on TV trying to get a whole bunch of attention. But now the average person, you can't even tell what they are or if they're even from Earth. So now the artists and whatever have to push the limit even more, and they've run out of ideas. So now they're just doing demonic stuff because they don't have anything else. When you're trying to appeal to people that have all the money in the world, all you have left to give them is your dignity, your humanity, the part that's you. That's all you have left. And so they're doing all this nonsense, like we seen for the Grammys and like Lady Gaga getting thrown up on. I seen a girl, I don't even know if I could say this on YouTube. I seen a girl sprinkling on a dude's face while singing at a concert a week ago or something, circulating on Twitter. This is what they do now to get attention because they don't stand out anymore. If anything, they should show up looking like Mr. Rogers, because then everybody would be like, what is this? And pay attention to it because everything is so weird. So weird. Joe, that's supposed to be art? Oh my God, so lame. No, there isn't art anymore. There's no art because people won't pay for art. They won't. I've made music since I was 12 years old. Altogether, I might have made like $100 off of actual song play. I make money from mixing and mastering and engineering, which is why I went to school. But people don't pay for art. They won't. When was the last time you bought art? When was the last time you paid for a movie? Like, when was the last time you bought a CD and paid $25? Like when, you know, like 20 years ago. Probably haven't. You can listen to it for free on YouTube. You can watch all your stuff on Netflix and Hulu for $9 a month. You know, no one appreciates art. We devalued it to the point where it's valueless. And same thing with creating music. On top of no one paying to see entertainment, the people who are creating entertainment have streamlined it because you're pouring your heart into this art and then you put it out there and then people want it for free. They don't want to pay for it. So then you're like, well, if I can only make 20 cents off every, I don't know, tangible item I make, then I'm going to figure out a way to mass produce it. So then they come out with all these tools like AI to create images and doctor up images and make music and make movies and special effects and voiceovers and all this stuff. So you don't even have to try. You barely have to try. And you could put out hundreds of thousands of different pieces of content, and then everybody, ooh, here's a little 10 cents here. Ooh, here's a little nickel here. Oh, here's a penny here. And you ain't making no money off of it. And all of that together has turned entertainment into dirt. And it sucks because when I was little, I thought that was cool. And I was like, that's going to be me one day on stage in front of 1,000 people and blah, blah. And now it's not worth nothing. They look like a bunch of clowns at the circus singing and dancing and doing dumb stuff to try and get attention from everyone so they could barely make any money. That's why you don't even see most artists that you used to listen to because they didn't survive the plague. Because going to perform at concerts is the only way they make money. Like every time you guys buy a shirt, I make like $1. You might pay $25 for this shirt, but I only make $1 off of it. Artists are the same way. So their music, their movies, all this stuff is pennies. But then when they go do a concert and you're paying $40, $50, $60, $100 for a ticket, and then there's 60,000 people there, that's how they make their money. Well, during the plague, you couldn't go to concerts. So they didn't survive it. And entertainment's trash now. It's just a display of demonic behavior and political agenda, and that's all it is. And that's like people who know me in real life, they're like, why don't you pull your head out of politics? I'm like, where do I do that at? Where can I do that at? Everything I watch, everything I hear, all I see is the politics in it because it's everywhere. It's merged into everything, schools and everything. You cannot get away from politics. So you gotta just, balance it. Just ignore the politics and go have an iced coffee for $5. Go take your cat for a walk. Take your dog for a walk. Play catch with your kid. Try it. That's it. That's the only way to take your mind off of it. Because you cannot stare at these things and not see politics. There's no way. It's impossible. I don't know if Corinne's coming to work today. Corrine. I don't know if she's going to make it. We'll see, I guess. She's almost an hour late. So we're going to move on to this. This video is titled, Hunter Biden's attorney denies Republicans' request for records. We're going to get this started, and I'm going to read through the chats really quick.
And Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, the most transparent administration president in all of history apparently does not apply in this situation or apparently any situation. Right, Joe?
Well, it's pretty obvious, Todd, that at this point, Hunter Biden was involved in, and let's be generous as possible, some really shady stuff, and not to be so generous, possibly illegal activity, which is why there's a federal investigation going on right now. Take Congress out of this. There is a federal investigation going on right now into Hunter Biden. And the question that keeps coming up is, did the president profit off of these business dealings by Hunter Biden? Is he compromised by the Chinese, who's our biggest adversary, and others right now? And not even just Joe Biden, but James Biden, his brother. He denies all this. He calls the allegation that he did anything wrong.
I have never heard of James Biden.
The more we hear about this laptop and the more we hear about the contents, the more questions arise. There's more fire than just smoke. And the federal investigation continues, by the way, and it seems to concern more people than Hunter Biden, right? So here we go. We're going now into what's basically a presidential campaign. Donald Trump's already announced. Joe Biden will probably announce soon. Others will jump in. This is an important topic, and it deserves attention, except when you watch media coverage of Hunter Biden, you would think that, okay, there's no there. The contents of the laptop say otherwise, Ashley.
Yeah, but then Joe Biden constantly says the public's not interested in this and it's a waste of time, and it's just lies about his family. But my question is, obviously these subpoenas are going to come down because now Hunter Biden's attorneys, they're not giving anything over to this committee, and then the others that they've requested from, they're just not responding. But to Todd's point that he made in the 4 o'clock hour, how can we trust these judges that would issue these subpoenas? Because as we say, they're part of the swamp too.
Well, precisely. So you wonder, is this a fixed fight? Will this somehow go away without a true investigation in this situation? But fortunately, Congress is pursuing this. And fortunately, there is a federal investigation going on, as I mentioned. So we'll see how this plays out. But either way, we've gone from the laptop is Russian disinformation, ignore this, to where we are now. And it just seems like things will only get worse before they get better for not only Hunter Biden, but Joe Biden, James Biden, and everyone else that appears to be involved in this based on the contents of the laptop. Guys.
Speaking of big fights, there's a big game this Sunday, and we'd love to be talking to you about the spread, who's going to win, all this other stuff, but we can't because we have to talk about this. President Biden has yet to commit to a Super Bowl interview on Fox just days out from the big game. Quick background, the network that has the Super Bowl typically does an interview with the president. This year, that network is Fox. Is this surprising to you in any way, shape, or form, Joe?
Well, let's get the elephant out of the room first, Todd, because I know that America is watching right now and saying, okay, who do I like in the game and why? Eagles will win. I don't think it will even really be close. No, I got to get this out of the way first.
All right, Joe Concha.
I got 34. 34-24. Sorry, Ashley. I know you're a Chiefs fan. I just don't see the Chiefs protecting Patrick Mahomes against that pass rush, and I can see the Eagles moving the ball quite easily against the Chiefs defense. Now, all that said, we have had presidents going back to 2004. Sorry about that. 2004. Who appear on the Super Bowl pregame interview, all right? This is a tradition. Now, remember, the Super Bowl is carried by multiple networks, CBS, NBC, ABC at one point, and Fox. And every president for about 2 decades, whether we're talking about George W. Bush or Barack Obama or Donald Trump, has appeared and sat down and done this interview regardless of the network carrying it. But Joe Biden here appears to be, or at least his handlers anyway, petrified of either Brett Baer or Shannon Bream or whoever would actually conduct this interview, asking the types of questions that Americans want answered as far as the border, as far as education in this country, as far as Chinese spy balloons, as far as inflation, as far as crime. So the president's handlers therefore say, all right, we cannot put the president in this situation with tens of millions of people watching. We're going to pull him out. And quite frankly, he looks like a coward when he does these things, considering that especially Barack Obama sat down with Fox News, no problem. Joe Biden won't do it. He is the least accessible, the most protected, I should say, president we have seen of the television era, guys.
Could you imagine being scared of Shannon Bream? She's so scary.
Nicest human ever created. I will say this, Joe, it's been great having you on the program. We sure are going to miss you here at Fox and Friends First going forward.
We're done with
Ashley,
you.
don't do it. Don't do it.
We'll talk on Monday. We'll see if your prediction's right.
Thanks, Joe. Have a great weekend. Enjoy
Save
the game.
the tape.
Save the tape.
All right, guys.
Joe, thanks.
I'm Steve Ducey.
All right, let's see what else is going on. Oh, it looks like KJP finally came to work today. Let me get this set up, you hooligans. Make sure you rack those likes up to boost the live. More likes, more hooligans. Share this out. I'm sure this will be fairly entertaining. I think the last time we seen her was Tuesday. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't be speaking on it. I thought today was Wednesday. You guys know better than I do. You're some smart hooligans. So we're like just a few minutes late, but I'm rewinding it back so we can hear all the nonsense.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Prostitute.
Hello. From February 20th to the 22nd, President Biden will travel to Poland. He will meet with President Duda of Poland to discuss our bilateral cooperation, as well as our collective efforts to support Ukraine and bolster NATO's deterrence. He will also meet with the leaders of the Bucharest Nine, a group of our Eastern Flank NATO allies, to reaffirm the United States' unwavering support for the security of the alliance. In addition, President Biden will deliver remarks ahead of the one-year anniversary of Russia's brutal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, addressing how the United States has rallied the world to support the people of Ukraine as they defend their freedom and democracy, and how we will continue to stand with the people of Ukraine for as long as it takes. With that, my colleague John Kirby from the NSC is going to come up and share some words and take some questions.
Afternoon, everybody. Just a couple things here at the top. President Lula.
Hello there, young child.
President soon. He's looking forward to that discussion. Brazil is a key partner of the United States in a region that is also a critically important region and an ally as we work together to address common challenges throughout the world, quite frankly, not just in this part of it. The President has personal experience working with President Lula from his time as Vice President, and they met several times and have had multiple calls. Of course, as you know, we've already held a number of high-level engagements since President Lula's election. President Biden called President Lula shortly after he was elected to congratulate him and begin identifying areas where the two countries could work together. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan traveled to Brazil for meetings with then President-elect Lula and members of his incoming administration. And Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland led a presidential delegation to Brazil for the inauguration. And of course, following the January 8 attack on Brazil's democracy, President Biden was quick to call President Lula to convey the United States' unwavering support for democracy in Brazil. The two have had, or they will have, a packed agenda here today, discussing issues that are important to both of them, and as I said, to the region and to the world. That includes combating climate change, stimulating economic development, strengthening democracy, promoting human rights and inclusion, as well as managing irregular migration. Now, this meeting between the two leaders will strengthen the relationship between the United States and Brazil and will help set the stage for upcoming high-level engagements between our two countries. One more note before we jump into questions, and this is just an update on U.S. efforts to respond and to help provide assistance to the people of Turkey and Syria in the wake of those devastating earthquakes. We are ramping up our assistance to these earthquakes that have now killed more than 20,000 people in Turkey and Syria, including, that we know of, at least 8 American citizens. Now, this is a terrible tragedy, obviously, and our hearts continue to go out to all those impacted. We remain in close contact with our Turkish allies at every level of government, including, of course, a phone call between President Biden and President Erdogan. Yesterday, we announced that the United States will provide $85 million in life-saving assistance to provide shelter to the displaced, as well as food, medicine, and other desperately needed aid. In Turkey, a USAID disaster assistance and response team is already on the ground, and 2 of our most highly trained urban search and rescue teams are conducting operations in support of Turkish rescue efforts in Adıyaman, one of the hardest hit areas inside the country. These teams have nearly 200 personnel combined between them, specialized equipment and canine support dogs as well. They have been able to expand their operational reach with the support of U.S. military Black Hawk helicopters. And because of the extensive damage to roads and to bridges, ground transportation, I think you can understand, is pretty challenging. They'll continue to run airlift operations from Incirlik, transporting rescue personnel to sites that they are most needed to conduct operations. The DART teams, as we call them, are also conducting structural damage assessments of many buildings and infrastructure. To date, they have been able to cover more than 630 sites across Adıyaman. In Syria, our humanitarian partners continue to urgently scale up response efforts to reach people in need. That work will include, or has included, chartered flights that are transporting essential medical supplies and teams distributing hot meals and other food. As of this morning, the United Nations and its partners successfully completed its second cross-border humanitarian convoy into northwest Syria, and one of our humanitarian partners delivered 14 additional truckloads of supplies through the Bab al-Hawa crossing, totaling now 20 trucks of critical medicines, food, and water to people in need over the last 2 days. To underscore that U.S. sanctions will not prevent or prohibiting humanitarian assistance in Syria, yesterday the Department of Treasury, I think you saw, issued a broad general license to provide additional authorizations for disaster relief assistance to the Syrian people. We already were able to deliver humanitarian assistance without this general license, but we wanted to underscore the importance of humanitarian aid getting in, and so the Treasury went ahead and issued this license as well. This license will be in effect for 6 months. U.S. humanitarian assistance is delivered directly to the Syrian people, no matter where they live. And we are determined to do all that we can to help those affected by these earthquakes in the days, weeks, and months ahead, as required.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So, why the president decided to go to Poland? What message he wants to deliver? And is there any chance that he would visit Ukraine during his visit to Poland? And I have also one on President Lula's visit. President Lula has said he wanted to create a group of countries, including China and India, to mediate peace between Ukraine and Russia. Does the president support this effort? Is this the right time for opening negotiations?
Well, there's a lot there.
That's what she said.
So look, on the trip, I don't have any other additional stops to speak to. Karine announced the purpose of the trip, and that's to go to Poland. And in Karine's opening statement, I think she answered your main question, which is what does he want to talk about? He wants to talk about the importance of the international community's resolve and unity in supporting Ukraine for now going on a year. Wouldn't it be great if the president didn't have to make a trip around a one-year anniversary of a war that never should have started? Sadly, that's where we are, and he wants to make sure that he's sending that strong message, not only of United States resolve, but the international community resolve, and to make clear to the Ukrainian people, most particularly, that the United States is going to continue to stand by them going forward. We know the next weeks and months are going to be difficult and critical, especially for their armed forces, and the United States is going to continue to stand by them. On your question about President Duda and his peace overtures or ideas, is that what?
President Lula.
Lula, I'm sorry.
Lula, yeah. He said that he wants to create a group of countries to negotiate peace in Ukraine, and those groups, according to him, would include China, India, maybe some other countries.
Well, I certainly would refer to President Lula to speak to his ideas. I think in the aggregate, we all would like to see this war end today. We'd like to see it end right now, in other words, without having to go to the negotiating table. That doesn't appear to be in the offing, as Mr. Putin just over the last 24 hours flew dozens more cruise missiles into civilian targets into Ukraine, knocking out heat and power across the country. So absent that, we're going to have to stay at the task of supporting Ukraine so that they can succeed at the battlefield. So that if and when President Zelensky has determined it's time to negotiate and sit down at the table to solve this diplomatically, he can do it with the wind at his back. He can do it with the strength that he knows he's going to need in that negotiation. So it's really up to President Zelensky to determine if and when negotiations are appropriate, and certainly under what circumstances. As President Biden has said countless times, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine.
On the trip to Poland, can we expect the president to make any kind of formal announcement as it pertains to maybe additional security aid? Or will it mostly be sort of a symbolic show of support, as you were talking about, to the Ukrainian people, the U.S.-Polish alliance?
I won't get ahead of the president's remarks. Certainly I'm not going to do that. Again, the president will make it very clear that the United States will continue to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. He will continue to call for the kind of international unity that we've seen, not just across NATO, but across the world, or not just across Europe. And I think he will certainly make clear that additional security assistance, additional financial assistance, additional help for Ukraine will be coming from the United States. But I won't get ahead of anything specific.
And I had a quick follow-up on the Chinese spy balloon. This idea that President Xi Jinping may not have been aware of the order to send this balloon over U.S. soil, what would that tell you if that were true about his grip on his own government? Is it possible that it suggests a kind of power breakdown? Is it surprising to the U.S.?
We certainly can't confirm these reports about President Xi's personal knowledge of that, and I would refer you to the PRC to speak to their own leadership issues and information sharing. What matters to us is that this was a violation of our sovereign airspace, and clearly with intent. Now, whose intent? I don't think we have a perfect picture of that right now. Clearly, without question, the intent of the PRC. Because we know that this balloon belonged to them. And President Biden acted decisively in support of our national sovereignty.
What our reporting is that U.S. officials briefing lawmakers this week told lawmakers that this is the U.S. intelligence community's
I'm not going to speak to
right?
intelligence assessments from the podium.
We got to keep going. Good job.
Thank you, Karine. Admiral, there's been warnings from the Ukrainians as well as intelligence agencies in both Europe and here that as the one-year mark of the war approaches, that might be a moment where Putin tries to really escalate the conflict, maybe even launch some sort of major new offensive. Are you seeing any signs of that being in the works?
What we see, Jonathan, is that the Russians continue to conduct offensive operations in the...
There we have on the brain. Thank you so much, IB4, for gifting 5 memberships over here on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Continue to barrage the country with cruise missiles, knocking out civilian infrastructure and trying to make life more difficult for the Ukrainian people. And we do believe that he will try to take advantage of these winter months to restock, resupply, rearm, contribute to his manpower
Look at his ghoul fingers.
Renewed offensive operations come spring.
Hello.
But have we seen all that take shape now? I don't believe we're at a point where we've seen all of that really form. But we're
Thank you so much, Viking Vet, for continuing the membership program. You're officially a hooligan. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Security assistance packages from the United States and from others that are more advanced capabilities, the kinds of capabilities that will allow them to fight in open terrain, combined arms capabilities, armored capabilities, artillery. All of that is designed to help them prepare for whatever the Russians might be planning in the spring. All that's to say, we do expect that, again, as the weather improves, the fighting will probably get more vicious.
Thank you, Corinne. Hi, John. I have more follow-ups on the Lula visit as well as the assistance U.S. providing to Turkey. But really briefly, can you speak to rumors that there is another Chinese balloon above Alaska or any other parts of U.S. territory that the U.S. shot down?
So I can confirm that the Department of Defense was tracking a high-altitude object over Alaska airspace in the last 24 hours. The object was flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight. Out of an abundance of caution and at the recommendation of the Pentagon, President Biden ordered the military to down the object. And they did, and it came inside our territorial waters. Those waters right now are frozen, but inside territorial airspace and over territorial waters. Fighter aircraft assigned to U.S. Northern Command took down the object within the last hour. Okay.
Can I just follow up, John, and thank you for that. That's really helpful. Can you give more details on the support that U.S. is providing to Turkey? Specifically, we understand that the USS George H.W. Bush is on standby. Can you update us on whether there's been any communications with Ankara on whether the ship will be any part of humanitarian efforts?
I think I updated as much as I could right now. What we're doing is what I put in my opening statement. You're right that there are naval assets that are in the Mediterranean and under the command of U.S. Naval Forces Europe. The commander of U.S. European Command has designated the commander of U.S. Naval Forces Europe as in charge of the operational coordination for military assets, and he is doing that. I cannot speak to any specific contributions by the aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush, but obviously there's lots of capabilities in the Mediterranean region that could be brought to bear. But we're working, and this is a really important point. We're working in lockstep with our Turkish counterparts here to make sure that what we're providing is what they need at the scale and the speed that they need, and not trying to overwhelm their system with unneeded material or unneeded capability. So there's, you talked about the Bush, but there's a lot of military capability on the continent under the European commander's authority that could be used. But again, we want to make sure that we're doing this appropriatly through Turkish counterparts.
Really briefly on the visit by President Lula, can you speak about how...
I know, I'm going to come around, but she's still asking questions. I hear you.
Just the last question.
I do. Go ahead.
Just the last question. Can you speak on how Brazil can be a partner in monitoring irregular migration, specifically because Brazil has been a route for Africans coming to the U.S. Through Mexico?
As I said, I would expect President Lula and President Biden to talk about the challenges of irregular migration. You saw the Vice President just this week holding a conference of some of our neighbors.
A conference of these guys. Thank you so much, MT Coiner, for gifting 5 memberships over on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you so much, Viking Vet, for gifting 10 memberships over here on YouTube. You're awesome. Thank you. In order for you guys to claim those memberships, all you have to do is click the tag at the top to redeem a gifted membership, and make sure you thank those hooligans that are sending them out, because those memberships are not free. I appreciate you guys.
Balloon, something was shot down today. Who owns it? What were the circumstances? Was the president directly involved in ordering this? And is wreckage being recovered?
Okay, so I'm going to try. Remind me if I forget something.
Okay.
Yes, the president absolutely was involved in this decision. He ordered it at the recommendation of Pentagon leaders. He wanted it taken down, and they did that. They did it using fighter aircraft assigned to U.S. Northern Command. The Pentagon will have more to say about the details of this later on this afternoon. It's only just within the last hour. We're calling this an object because that's the best description we have right now. We do not know who owns it, whether it's state-owned or corporate-owned or privately owned. We just don't know. We don't know. As I said, state-owned. We don't know if it's state-owned. And we don't understand the full purpose. We don't have any information that would confirm a stated purpose for this object. We do expect to be able to recover the debris since it fell not only within our territorial space but on what we believe is frozen water. So a recovery effort will be made, and we're hopeful that it'll be successful, and then we can learn a little bit more about it.
Could you be more vague about it?
The Chinese aircraft?
No, it was much smaller than the spy balloon that we took down last Saturday. The way it was described to me was roughly the size of a small car, as opposed to a payload that was like 2 or 3 buses size, right? So much smaller, and not of the same, not.
Take a second to think about what you're trying to say, because you just look ridiculous and it's hurting our ears.
Lastly, is it now the policy of the United States that if unidentified aircraft are over U.S. territory, that it is likely the president will choose to shoot it down?
The president will always act in the best interest of our national security and in the safety and security of the American people.
Word.
We're going to get you guys. Good job. John, so the Pentagon ordered this new object be taken down over Alaska.
The president ordered it.
The president ordered it. So is it a fair takeaway then that the Pentagon regrets not taking down the first balloon before it crossed the entire U.S.?
Well, I'm not going to speak for the Pentagon. I can tell you that the president doesn't regret the way that we
no regrets. He doesn't even regret the classified documents because he knows nothing's going to happen.
Apples and oranges here in terms of size. As I said, this was the size of a small car, and it was over a very sparsely populated area, but also more critically it was over water space when we ordered this down, as we did the last one. But completely different size, and the debris field for this we expect to be much smaller than would have been for the other one. That's difference one. Difference two, we knew for a fact that the PRC balloon that we shot down last week was in fact a surveillance asset and capable of surveillance over sensitive military sites, and that it had self-propulsion and maneuver capabilities. There's no indication that this one did. The other one, the first one, was able to maneuver and loiter, slow down, speed up. It was very purposeful, that flight path inside the jet stream.
That would suggest that maybe you're taking it out over Alaska too, though.
Well, look, the Pentagon's already spoken to this question about whether or not they should have or could have shot it down over Alaska airspace. I would refer you to, there was 2 hours and hours of testimony yesterday on that.
On the communications, though, we still don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't know what intelligence or communications could have been collected or what devices they were targeting, as I understand it. So that being said, how can the president say it was not a major breach if we don't know that?
What we do know is we knew the basic flight path of this thing, and we were able to take steps at sensitive military sites that we believed would be along the flight path to significantly curtail any intelligence ability that the Chinese could get from the balloon. Certainly curtail anything that would be above and beyond what they normally try to collect through other means.
Go ahead, Zeke, and then we'll get around.
Thanks, John. Was this latest object that was shot down within the last hour, was that detected based upon any information gleaned from the monitoring of the last balloon over the last over last week in terms of what you learned about that Chinese program that informed the decision to shoot this item down?
I think I'd be careful saying that anything specific to what we've learned from that last platform. And we were able to collect some information from it while it was in flight. That was another reason why we let it traverse over land the way it did. But I would be I would not say that information gleaned from our surveillance of that surveillance balloon provided insights that permitted this detection and track.
And as of this moment, are you convinced that you shot down? Do you know what you shot down? That it wasn't just a harmless weather balloon? That there was some motivation flying this over U.S. airspace, or is it truly?
I think we're going to try to learn more. I can tell you it was an object. It was at 40,000 feet, and
it was an object.
The predominant.
Was it now?
By the president was a safety of flight issue.
We're all in awe.
Remember the one that we shot down last Saturday? It was at 65,000+ feet. So no threat to civilian aircraft. This one at 40,000 feet could have posed a threat to civilian aircraft, and it did not appear to have the maneuverable capability that the other one did. So, virtually at the whim of the wind.
Thank you, Corinne. So just thank you for being
just a bunch of words
about civilian aircraft. Is that what you meant initially when you said there was a reasonable threat to shoot it down?
Yes, my exact words were reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight.
Okay, and given what you said earlier about intent with regard to the Chinese.
What kind of dressing would you guys like with your word salad? I'm going with some ranch, and Kirby better make it snappy.
And ended up where it did.
You're talking about the one from last week? Yeah. Say that again. Was it?
Does the U.S. give any credence to the Chinese argument that this thing accidentally veered off course and ended up where it did?
Talk to him like he's 3.
Was it targeting specific places? Was it targeting military sites?
What we know is that the flight path it executed took it over sensitive military sites. What we also know is that it could maneuver, that it had propulsion capability and steerage capability, and could slow down, speed up, and that it was on a path to transit over sensitive military sites.
Thank you.
Thanks. Admiral Kirby, on the latest object, you said it did not appear to have the maneuverability capabilities that the Chinese spy balloon have. Did it have any maneuverability, or was it flying on its own?
At this time, all I can tell you is it did not appear to have the ability to independently maneuver. We'll attempt recovery, and we'll see what we can learn more from.
And then just one more on the Chinese spy balloon. We're reporting that the U.S. is about to impose export controls on Chinese companies that are believed to have been involved in that balloon surveillance program. Can you confirm that and say when the administration might impose those export controls?
I'm not in a position to confirm those reports right now, and I'd refer you to the Department of Treasury.
Thank you, Admiral. I believe you said this was shot down, or at least it landed in the waters or the frozen waters off the coast of Alaska, correct?
That is our initial assessment.
So is the policy still, considering the first one was shot down off the East Coast and this high-altitude object was shot down off the West Coast, is the policy at this point in time you could shoot it down if it's over a body of water?
I wouldn't derive from these two incidents some sort of policy that comes out of it. The president will always act in the best interest of the American people and in our national security. Last week, we were talking about a surveillance asset that was purposely flown over the continental United States. In the case today, we're talking about an object. Again, we don't know a lot about it, but you
shot it out of the sky.
A potential threat to the safety of flying customers, civil air traffic.
Based on your broad and deep experience, who do you think might own or have flown this thing in the air?
I have no idea.
Good man.
You know, you don't know who owns it, who's flown it, but has anyone from the administration reached out to the Chinese to see whether they will claim this new object?
I know of no outreach this afternoon to the Chinese government about this.
The State Department over the weekend, or the last few days, I'm losing track of days, but since the first spy balloon, confirmed that they think that these Chinese spy balloons have gone over 40 countries. Considering that fact and this new development today, what's next on a larger diplomatic front? The U.S. talking with allies about how to police the skies, about how to bring this to the UN to figure out what to do?
We are talking to dozens of nations who we know have been overflown by Chinese surveillance balloons, part of this program that the Chinese have invested in, to share with them the context and information that we've learned by the forensics we've done since we came in office about this particular program. And I would remind you that we briefed Congress in a classified setting back in August about this. This is not something we haven't been trying to learn more about. We've been aware of it and trying to glean more information from it. And this, we expect that the recovery of the debris from the balloon we shot down on Saturday, last Saturday, will help us gain even more information. But we are in the active conversations with many of these countries who we know have been overflown.
Yeah, where specifically in Alaska was the high altitude object shot down?
So the Pentagon will be talking more about this a little bit later. They'll probably have more detail for you. But the general area would be just off the very, very northeastern part of Alaska, right near the Alaska-Canada border.
So near the Arctic Ocean?
Well, yeah, in fact, that's where it went down, on that northern side of Alaska.
You sound like you're just making it all up, son.
On water that is frozen in the, yes, in the Arctic.
Is the water frozen in Alaska? Is it though? Do you know? You don't know. You're just making it up.
It was shot down within the last hour. When did the U.S. first?
This poor guy.
Intelligence
got a face for radio.
The knowledge about the balloon and the track first came to our attention last evening.
Okay. What time thereabouts?
I don't have an exact time on the clock for you. It was last evening.
Well, have you ruled out, or not ruled out, but you have not determined that it was surveillance in nature, correct?
We haven't ruled anything in or out. And that's why we're calling this thing an object.
You just called it a balloon. You misspoke there.
I'm sorry. It's not a, yes, I'm sorry. You guys have...
You can't say it's a balloon either.
You guys have me with balloon on the brain right now.
Right.
This was an object. Let me just clarify, I'm not classifying it as a balloon right now. It's an object. We're still trying to learn more from it. That it landed on water that is frozen could help us assist, make it easier for us to try to recover some of the debris. U.S. Northern Command is examining what the possibilities for that
and
are.
Finally, you said you have no knowledge of any outreach to the Chinese yet from the administration. Are there plans to reach out and ask whether they...
I know of no plans to reach out to the Chinese specifically on this. I want to stress again, we don't know what entity owns this object. There's no indication that it's from a nation or an institution or an individual. We just don't know.
Foreign entity, that's right.
We don't know who owns this object.
Thank you. Thanks. Are you tracking any other similar objects right now at this time?
I'm not aware of any other tracks.
And then also, I know that you said that this was due to a civilian aircraft threat, but why not wait till it's over warmer water where you could more easily recover
It wasn't heading over warmer water. It was heading over the Arctic. It's not very warm.
Thank you, Karina.
He's looking at the whole audience at once.
One question on
he can be
and one on a separate.
He can see both walls at one time. Just look straight down the room.
Known about this object at the time that our forces shot it down. Is it safe to say that when the president ordered,
all that stuff in the background is new,
he did not know whether it was a manned or unmanned object?
We were able to get
are those lockers
up and around it before the order to shoot it down, and the pilot's assessment was that this was not manned.
Okay. On a different subject, after the State of the Union address, minutes after he finished delivering the State of the Union address, President Biden encountered in the halls of the Capitol Brittany Alconis, the wife of your Navy comrade Ridge Alconis, who, as you know, remains imprisoned in Japan. And the president told Mrs. Alconis, we're going to get this done. I wonder if you can tell us if the Alconis case figured in the conversation that the president had with the Japanese prime minister when he visited here last month, and if you can flesh out the president's promise to Mrs. Alconis. I know generally you don't like to say a whole lot about these kinds of...
They brought Jabba the Hutt in here.
Can you tell us about what's being done on behalf of Lieutenant Alconis?
I would go back to what I said to you last time, James. I mean, the president's well aware of this case. And he's well aware of what the family's going through. He's also well aware of concerns by the Japanese government with respect to their judicial system. And he's got the team working on this. I'm not going to disclose personal conversations that the president had either with Mrs. Alconis or with Prime Minister Kishida. But he's well aware of it, he's tracking it, and so is the national security team.
Thank you, Karine. Admiral, over here. I wanted to ask you two questions.
I need to watch for her hands.
One on the shoot down that you just described.
Eric, we called it at the same time. It makes a lot of sense when you realize that the sign language person is Princess Leia.
That you can describe that has been ongoing.
Now you know why she's been locked away all year.
On the diplomatic side of things, I know that the defense secretary says that his call to his counterpart was not returned from China. But on the diplomatic side of things, are there lines of communication between the U.S. and China right now?
Well, certainly. Look, we have an embassy in Beijing. Diplomatic discussions routinely happen with Beijing. So, of course, the diplomatic channels remain open. Sadly, the military ones do not appear to be open right now. Secretary Austin made a good faith effort to reach out to his counterpart and was rebuffed, and that's unfortunate, particularly when at times like this you want to keep as open as you can the lines of communication, and the president's committed to that.
And then on Ukraine, President Zelensky was in the UK earlier this week, and he received a promise from the UK government that the UK would train Ukrainian pilots on NATO standard jet fighters. Can you tell me if you think that's a good idea? Is that something that the U.S. is considering?
Didn't do a whole lot of good in Afghanistan, did it?
On NATO aircraft as well.
Well, if they're going to get Western aircraft, then they're going to need to be trained on them.
Does that mean that will happen? They'll get Western aircraft?
That would be up to the nations that may be willing to provide aircraft. I've said it before. Probably tired of me hearing me say it, but these are all sovereign decisions. And if a NATO nation or even a non-NATO nation wants to provide capabilities like fighter aircraft to Ukraine, that's certainly their decision.
He's trying to smack me with his turkey dog fingers. Hold up now.
If you're going to introduce a system into it,
why is he leaning into me?
They have no experience with.
Back up, weirdo.
There's have to be some training that goes along with that. We're doing it right now.
It's freaking me out.
We've got Ukrainian soldiers learning how to use a Patriot battery. Outside of Ukraine, we're helping train them on combined arms maneuver. So it's not unusual to do that if an advanced capability is provided, but that's going to be a national decision.
Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Corinne. Isn't there a concern that these objects, the object and the balloon, were both discovered when they're already flying over U.S. airspace? Shouldn't they be detected before they enter the U.S.?
I think we're going to continue to learn a lot about how these things are or can be detected in a better way. You heard the Northcom commander talk about certain gaps that he felt he had in his domain awareness. So from this incident last week, we'll certainly learn about the capabilities of that surveillance asset.
You want to know the capabilities? Go in your backyard and launch something and watch how fast they show up.
For detection and tracking. I don't want to get into exactly how this one was.
I'm starting to feel like everyone is more free than us.
I can assure you that we're going to continue to try to improve our own knowledge base with respect to these systems.
Just one more quick question on the object. Can you say anything about the proximity of it and its flight path to the sensitive oil fields near Prudhoe Bay? And was there any threat at all at any point to that equipment in that region of Alaska?
I'd refer you to the Pentagon for more detail about the track. Again, this just all happened within the last hour, so I don't know what the proximity was to oil fields. And your second question was?
Oh, it was just about the sensitivity, the oil fields, basically.
Well, again, I mean, we just don't know what this object was. We don't.
Then why'd you shoot it out of the sky?
Point to a threat or a specific concern.
Why not just let it float across the country like you did the Chinese spy balloon that you knew was a Chinese spy balloon?
On the Russian, completely different topic. The Russians have said they're going to cut oil output now. What is the U.S. response to that? And will you reach out to OPEC to ask them to sort of compensate the difference so that the price of oil doesn't escalate at a time when you're just starting to see inflation?
Once again, Mr. Putin's willing to weaponize energy. This move, if it proves to be true, it doesn't come as a big surprise as a reaction to the price cap, and it just shows you the lengths to which he's willing to use resources like energy as a weapon. What the United States will do, have done, continue to do, is work with allies and partners to make sure we can better balance supply and demand and try to meet that need. It's important. We still believe that Mr. Putin not be allowed to profiteer in an inappropriate way off of the oil he puts on the market so that he can then fund his military in the field.
Will you reach out to OPEC?
I don't have any diplomatic outreach to speak to today.
You don't have any answers. You're worse than KJP.
Falls in that category, but I don't have any specific conversations to talk about.
Go ahead and answer.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, John. I have two questions. China is claiming ownership of the balloon, and China said that they will take legal action.
Oh, I can tell you guys are going to just wreck her in the comments.
China.
There are no plans to send the debris that we are recovering back to China. We're going to pull it up off the bottom of the ocean, and we're going to learn more about this capability.
Second question, Iran is building a drone factory in Russia, and North Korea is receiving military drone from Russia. How do you view armed cooperation between North Korea, Iran, and Russia?
I can't confirm those specific reports, Janie, but I was up here not long ago talking about the burgeoning defense relationship between Iran and Russia, which is not only not good for the people of Ukraine, it's not good for the people of the Middle East, because it'll flow both ways, and Russian capabilities could very well end up in Iranian hands. And I would say the same about North Korea. We know, I got up here and showed you pictures, we know that they're providing ammunition to Russia, artillery ammunition specifically. And again, that's not only not good for the people of Ukraine, it's not good for the Korean Peninsula and the region there, that Russia and North Korea could be, again, developing a deeper defense relationship.
Thanks, John. Just a few more on the object. You said it was discovered last night. Was it flying consistently at an altitude of roughly 40,000 feet that entire time?
Roughly, yes.
Were there any sightings that you're aware of by airmen, civilian
No,
aircraft
sir.
operators? No.
No, sir.
And can you, just to nail it down, can you tell us when the president gave the order to shoot it down?
Gave the order to shoot it down this morning. Yeah.
Again, just keep following up on the same topic. The speed with which you guys, with which the president apparently decided to shoot it down, having just discovered the first intelligence of it last night, and by the morning he's saying shoot it down. Was there something specific, more specific about the threat than just generally being in the airspace at which, the height at which?
The predominant reason driving the president's decision was the safety of flight issue.
No, I understand it was, but there had, I mean, that's a really big area up there. It's not all that many planes. It's not like it was in the middle of the Northeast corridor or something. Is there no way in which you guys could have said, hey, airplanes, like, steer clear of this area until we know better what this thing is, because we're, I mean, in other words, was there some reason why?
The president wasn't willing to take that kind of a risk in time, because this thing did not appear to be self-maneuvering, and therefore at the mercy of prevailing winds. It was much less predictable, and so the president just wasn't willing to take that risk.
Thank you.
You mentioned that there were fighter aircraft who were able to determine that it likely was not manned. Were those fighter aircraft able to determine anything else about it from up close that they wouldn't be able to find out otherwise?
They worked really hard to try to get as much information as they could about this object. Given its size, which was much smaller, and the capabilities on the fighter aircraft themselves, the speed at which they were flying, it was difficult for the pilots to glean a whole lot of information. Not like we were able to glean off the balloon, not the other balloon, the balloon. Thank you, Michael. Because we also had several days to track that. So there was a limit to how much they could divine. Also, it was detected at night. And so the first...
Are they conditioning us to just stare in the sky every time we go outside?
Late last night was, again, difficult for them. It was a small object, and these are fighter aircraft flying at pretty high speed.
He's about to wiggle his little head right off his shoulders.
To glean a lot of information was limited, which is why they did another flight earlier this morning to see if we could get more. I mean, they did the best they could, but again, the speed and the
you were taking speed
there, as well as the size of the object, made it a little bit more difficult.
Just to confirm, there was a flight last night to do some surveillance.
Yes. That's right. There was at least two that I know of. Again, the Pentagon will probably have more detail, but at least two. There was last night, a couple of fighter aircraft surveilled it, tried to glean as much information as we could about what it was, so we had a sense. And then another such flight today, and of course that flight ended up, in a shoot down.
Sorry, just one more question.
We're running out of time.
From the White House podium, do you have a message for whoever is responsible for this aircraft or anyone who may have similar aircraft about what the White House is watching?
I'd rather than sending some sort of message in that way, I would just tell you that we're going to remain vigilant about our airspace. We're going to remain vigilant about the sky over the United States. And as I said earlier, the president takes his obligations to protect our national security interests and those of and the safety and security of the American people is paramount. And he's always going to decide and act in a way that is commensurate with that duty. That's the real takeaway here.
Okay, way in the back.
Did the U.S. ask Brazil to block Iranian warships from docking in Rio, and if so, why?
We did not ask the Brazilians to block that. Those ships are sanctioned ships specifically, and we don't want to see them dock anywhere in this hemisphere. And we've been very clear about that. But there was no specific ask made of Brazil. That's a sovereign decision that President Lula has to make.
I wanted to follow up on a question I asked you in September. In light of the Chinese spy balloon incident, does this administration consider Chinese land purchases near U.S. military bases a national security threat?
We are always concerned about potential foreign collection near or around our military sites. And you're right. Last week is a good example of that. We take that seriously, whether that's terrestrial related or whether it's from the air. And I think I'll just leave it at that.
Would you be working perhaps with Congress to put in place legislation to prevent that kind of ownership?
We are always willing to work with Congress to address our national security interests and threats as best we can.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, Admiral.
All right. Thank you, Corinne. Admiral, just real quick, is there a timeline for recovery of this object?
You'd have to talk to the Pentagon. I don't know. Again, guys, this just happened within the last hour and a half, and they're still assessing where this thing landed and the degree to which they can get to it.
And on the Poland visit, I know in the statement that you put out, Corinne, it says that the president is going to meet with leaders of the eastern flank NATO countries. Are any other European leaders, NATO leaders, expected to join the president on this trip?
We're still putting the agenda together. The predominant reason to meet with them, the Bucharest Nine, as you call it, is to really talk to those nations who are literally on the eastern flank.
Hooligans cracking me up saying it's a UFO. The aliens did it.
Attendees.
That's who did it.
That the president might have.
Who knows?
Thank you very much. Hello, John.
Is it time for Project Blue Beam?
back to Lula, if you can remember him. Is there going to be any commitment to the Amazon fund by the United States during this visit?
I think let's have the visit occur here shortly, and we'll provide you a readout. I don't have anything specific on that.
Okay, thank you. So, John, the U.S. Special Presidential Coordinator for Global and Infrastructure Energy is in Angola. So he met with President Lorenzo. Can you elaborate a little more on this visit?
I don't have any information on that. We'll take the question and see if we can get you a better answer.
Okay.
Just a quick one on the timeline. Was the president briefed on the object last night when the track first came to the administration's attention?
He was. He was as soon as the Pentagon had enough information to provide him, they did that.
Last question.
Ukraine. Thank you, madam. Thank you, John. As far as Russia's war against Ukraine is concerned, 1 year now, does President believe that when Prime Minister Modi of India told President Putin to stop the war, and this is not the way that this time that war should go like this, and you think there is still time for Prime Minister Modi to stop the war or convince President Putin?
I think there's still time for Mr. Putin to stop the war. I think there's still time for Mr. Putin to stop the war.
Prime Minister Modi can convince?
I'll let the Prime Minister speak to whatever efforts he's willing to undertake. I want to stress it again, Goyle. I mean, certainly the United States would welcome any effort that could lead to
leading to
Ukraine. That
Kareem's gonna get on stage and tell us about President
objectives and his.
They're huge fans.
Leadership, his determination of what is acceptable to the Ukrainian people. Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. So President Biden has said this, gosh, dozens of times. We think this war could end today, should end today. The single person responsible for what the Ukrainian people are going through is Vladimir Putin. And he could stop it right now. Instead, he's firing cruise missiles into energy and power infrastructure and trying to knock out the lights and knock out the heat so the Ukrainian people suffer even more than they already have. He could end it right now. And since he's not willing to do that, clearly, we've got to make sure we can help the Ukrainians succeed on the battlefield so that when President Zelensky determines it's time to negotiate, and he's the only one that can make that determination, he can do it with the strongest hand possible.
And finally, sir, 1.4 billion people in India are waiting for President Biden to welcome. When is the next trip?
I don't have any travel, other than the travel that Karine talked to today, I don't have any travel to announce.
Thanks, Admiral.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thanks, Admiral. Okay. Now for the boring part of the briefing. We just have a few minutes, guys, so we don't have a lot of time. So let me just go over the week ahead. So later today, as you all know, the president will hold a bilateral meeting with President Lula of Brazil. Tomorrow, the president and the first lady will welcome governors and their spouses for a black tie dinner at the White House. The vice president and the second gentleman will attend. On Tuesday, the president will deliver a keynote address during the National Association of Counties at the Washington Hilton Hotel, and we'll certainly have more to share on the week ahead in a day or two. And finally, there is a bittersweet day for us, a bittersweet moment for the communications and press teams and all of us here at the White House. I've gotten to know Kate Bedingfield as a colleague and a friend.
I don't know what it is.
Together
The outfit just doesn't look good.
agenda together.
She looks like the Easter Bunny. That's why I figured it out. She looks like the Easter Bunny at the mall. She just ain't got the head on yet.
This fight on behalf of the president since long
Figured it out.
before the campaign was
All by myself.
Going back to when she was his communications director as vice president, she's been a trusted source of strategic advice and an unflinching voice for the president's message and values, playing an integral role in our successes these first 2 years and on the campaign. She's also a pillar of this team, which she helped build as the deputy campaign manager across the primary and general elections. I understand that after a certain previous occupant of this White House, whose name will be nameless, but as you know who this person is,
Who, the Mag King?
and yelled and said, quote, "Biden has a team of killers. All I've got is a defense." Okay, that was in the campaign. That was the campaign.
Nice and cryptic.
Started calling Kate and the captain of the team killers. That doesn't surprise me at all, because if there's one thing Kate is, she is a leader. We're very sad to see her go, but no one has earned some time with their children, spouse, and dog more than Kate. And I look forward to welcoming Ben LeBolt. As you all know, he has been announced to replace Kate as communications director back to the White House. Ben has had a top role, communications role, on the last 3 successful Supreme Court nominations by Democratic presidents. We all got to work with him closely when he was the head of communications for the confirmation of now Justice Jackson, and we're glad that he is coming back to be a more permanent part of the team. I've known Ben for many years, including both Obama-Biden campaigns and the Obama-Biden White House, where he worked on climate change and civil rights. I was happy to reconnect with him when he took over communications for nominations during the transition, helping advance the case for the most diverse cabinet in history and for a host of groundbreaking sub-cabinet positions as well. He brings a cutting-edge understanding of modern communications to the table, and I know he'll fight hard for the president's agenda in the upcoming months and years. I also know that Ben is making history. As you know, we believe here in the Biden-Harris White House that representation.
You guys are killing me saying she looks like a tin of ice cream.
Communications director, which is very, very important indeed. Okay, with that.
I can't.
Could you just, the latest on the president's trip to Poland didn't say where he's going in Poland. Can you let us know cities?
We will have more to share as we get closer.
You hooligans are hilarious.
To make sure that you all had the information that he will be traveling during the dates that I laid out, the February 20th to the 22nd, and we'll certainly have more to share.
Briefly, a different topic. Last night, there was reporting that former Vice President was subpoenaed by the Special Counsel Jack Smith as a result of some of the investigations that were part of the previous administration. That obviously raises a bunch of privilege concerns. Would the president waive executive privilege for the former vice president's testimony before a grand jury or in these examples?
I'm just not going to, as you can imagine, not going to speak to this. I'm just going to refer you to the Department of Justice.
Chesh? No, Peter's not there. He just had a baby at 2 o'clock this morning. He just had a little one. Probably won't be there for a week or so.
The architect of the Capitol, Brett Blanton, of a bunch of things, widespread misuse of taxpayer-funded government vehicles, misleading information to investigators, impersonating law enforcement. That's in addition to making the decision not to go to the Capitol on January 6, 2021, which outraged Democrats and Republicans. And the president is the only person who has the authority to fire him. Is that something he's considering?
So obviously we're taking this very seriously, and we're seeing the reports as well, as you know, and we take any advice that the members of Congress or any action that they want to take very seriously as well. I just don't have anything for you at this time to speak to on that particular matter. Okay, Justin.
The House passed on a bipartisan basis overturning D.C.'s new criminal code and also a law that would allow non-citizens to vote. Is that something that the president would sign into law, or would he veto it?
So I would have to go back to the team and just get an answer for you on that. I don't know that particular piece of legislation. This is the first time I'm here.
That particular,
Get back to the team, we'll have an answer for you. Okay, Steve.
Hey, Corinne, while this briefing's been underway, the National Archives has released some of the communications between the president's personal attorneys and the agency. One of them, dated on November 8th, has a communication between Gary Stern, who was the general counsel of NARA, and Bob Bauer, the president's attorney, in which it references boxes in a Boston office. It says, Pat, this is to Pat Moore, who's the president's personal lawyer. Pat, we would like to pick up the boxes that are in your Boston office and move them to the JFK library. Any explanation as to what boxes we're doing in a Boston office and how this relates to
Well, as you just mentioned, it just broke, or the report just came out while we were in the middle of a briefing, so I can't speak to it from here because I just don't know what you're speaking to, but I would refer you to the White House counsel's office to get more specifics or get you an answer there.
Is it new to you, the idea that the boxes would be...
I am learning about this as you were asking the question, so I'm certainly not going to speak to it from here. Go ahead, Andrea.
On the president's meeting today with the governors, he said during this meeting that Republicans are trying to close off the possibility of cutting defense spending and that leaves only a very few options. What is the president's view on how to get to the $2 trillion in cuts that he has outlined in the State of the Union address? what is the best way to get there, and does he rule out the possibility of cutting, for instance, defense spending?
So first and foremost, so folks know, March 9th, the president's going to be putting out his budget. We have asked the House in Congress, the Republican House, to put out their budget as well, a more robust, right, a budget, so we know exactly what it is that they are putting forth, the cuts that they want to put forth, and so that we can see, not just us, but the American people can see. As you just mentioned, the president said in his State of the Union address that he was going to cut the deficit by $2 trillion over a decade. I'm not going to get ahead of what the president's going to actually, the details or the specifics in his budget. Certainly once we put that out on March 9th, you'll be able to peruse and see exactly what the president is laying out. I'm just not going to get ahead of that. But I also want to add, and I've said this many times before, you've heard the president say this as well, this is a president, the first 2 years, he was able to cut the deficit by $1.7 trillion. He takes his fiscal responsibility very seriously. And he is going to continue to find ways to build an economy that doesn't leave anybody behind, but also is fiscally responsible, as I just mentioned. Go ahead.
He also said that he did not believe that Republicans would ultimately make good their threat on to hold the debt ceiling extension or expansion hostage. What leads him to believe that? I mean, has he had subsequent conversations with other Republicans since his meeting with McCarthy, and when will he meet again with McCarthy?
So I don't have any conversations or meetings to preview for you at this time. As you know, the meeting that he had with Speaker McCarthy not too long ago was respectful. It was productive. You saw us put a readout, and you heard from the Speaker himself when he was out at the Sticks after the meeting. Look, it's pretty simple and it's pretty straightforward. We believe that Congress has a constitutional duty to get this done, to lift the debt ceiling. We've been saying that, and they should do it without conditions. That hasn't changed. They did it 3 times with the last president. You've heard me say the number 78 many times in this briefing room. That's how many times that they have been able to get this done since 1960. That doesn't change. It should be done in a bipartisan way.
Look at her all twisted up. Just standing here like this, like that's okay.
They've done it before.
Is she one of those people that pick her shoulder up when she's lying?
Optimistic today, and I'm wondering why.
This is a president who's always optimistic. This is a president who believes in optimism. As you know, he says it many times when he speaks in front of the American people, and so that is not surprising. You've heard me say that about him in describing even his speech for the State of the Union, that you would hear some optimism. So, of course, he's going to be optimistic about it. Go ahead.
Just particularly given Lula's visit here this afternoon, is there any kind of update on the possibility of expelling Bolsonaro from the U.S.? Does the president personally believe that he should be allowed to remain here?
As I've said before, we had not received any type of request in that vein. I'm not going to get ahead of a meeting that's going to happen very, very shortly. You guys are all have to leave to. For the pool spray that's going to happen in the Oval Office, so I'm not going to get ahead. President Lula is going to go to the Sticks right after the bilat, I believe, and take many questions from many of you. So I'm certainly not going to get ahead of what's going to come up in that meeting or what the agenda might be. I think the Admiral did a good job laying out our expectations, but I will let President Lula speak to that.
His meeting with the governors today, do you know whether and how much the issue of COVID and the expiration of the public health emergency order, how much that came up, whether the governors feel confident that the states are ready for that to happen?
So I can't speak to that. I haven't downloaded with what came up in that meeting, but what I can say is the president very much looked forward to talking to the governors. He's going to continue the conversation and continue to see them between today and tomorrow. And they've been great partners with us with all of the different historical pieces of legislation that we have.
Her brain has already walked out of the room.
Seeing the effects of in their own state. Okay, I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you, everybody.
What was with the wave? I don't think I've ever seen a wave before. She's just like with the little claw. I don't know. It's all right. Grab my strong hand. Well, moving forward, we have a 5-minute video titled Marjorie Taylor Greene on heckling Biden at the State of the Union address. We also have a live from earlier with Old Man Walter and Hyena Harris welcoming the nation's governors to the White House. That's a 25-minute video. So, this is the deal. Press 1 if you want to watch that 25-minute video of Hyena Harris and Old Man Walter. And press 2 if you're good on that, and we can go ahead and just cut that right out of the show. Because we got 2 other lives to watch, or they're not lives, 2 other videos. I got a spiel, we're going to do the pledge, we're going to laugh a little bit, and it's going to take some time. We could knock this 25-minute video of Hyena Harris cackling and showing us her neck gape. Or we could cut that out, but it's up to you, hooligans, because I've already watched half of it, so it's up to you. We're going to take a poll real quick. Not the same way Hyena Harris does. You guys cut that out. Kevin, for your information, the Team Rocket motto is basically the globalist agenda. I forgot about that. It killed me. I think it was yesterday talking about the Chinese spy balloon when it got shot down, yelling out, Team Rocket blasting off again. I'm going to get sued now. I think most people want to cut it. I can't remember what 1 and 2 is, but I'm thinking it's the cut it, but that's okay.
Now, of course, Democrats never let truth.
All right. As I said, the title is Marjorie Taylor Greene on heckling Old Man Walter at the State of the Union. There's mad people, but I was one of the glad people. That don't even look like Old Man Walter. He looks like he's doing some cultural appropriation right there. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Let's get her started, hooligans.
Now, of course, Democrats never let truth get in the way of a great political lie and narrative. Now, all of a sudden, after years of tantrums and rip speeches, they're very concerned with decorum in the House of Representatives, and they're very angry tonight at Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, one MSDNC host whining that she breached decorum and will face no consequences for it. Election denier himself, Jamie Raskin, calling her ridiculous and brought up George Santos. Why don't you bring up the congenital liar, your friend Adam Schiff? It's all they seem to be able to talk about. And meanwhile, Chelsea Handler called her a miserable moron. And the always classy ladies of The View, they even attacked her wardrobe. I didn't know that they were such fashion experts on that.
She just puts that stuff in her head just so people remember who she is.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's jacket.
Oh my God!
It looked like she skinned my puppy.
Yeah.
I was very. Yeah. There's Herbie not being pleased by this.
She's about to hyperventilate, trying to push this as humor.
DeVille.
About to push the plug out.
Fashion collections of joyless Behar. Anyway, here to respond, Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is with us. I personally loved every moment of it. I'll tell you why. Because every 2 and 4 years, and they did it in this last election, Democrats lie and say that Republicans want dirty air and water. They want to throw Granny and Grandpa over a cliff. They want to take away Social Security. They're racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, transphobic, and it goes on. So, the Republicans in unison, and you were pretty loud, you had a seat in the back saying, not true. What did you think of Joe Biden engaging that?
Well, I thought it was pretty impressive that the president would enter the people's house and try to lie to the American people about the economy, the border, and even ignore the fact that he allowed the Chinese spy balloon to spy on America. But when he continued the lie, accusing Republicans of
I like how she put the little barrette in her hair, like she doesn't know what it means to go full raging lunatic. I've seen MTG just lose her marbles, and it's awesome.
Stood up and screamed liar. And the reason why I did that, Sean, is because they have used my image and my name as leading the effort in that, when we have not had one single meeting in the GOP conference talking about cutting Social Security and Medicare. Joe Biden is a liar. I represent the American people, and I was honored to be able to call him the liar that he is in the people's house and not allow him to get away with it.
Do you have any reaction to the fashion experts, the fashion icons on The View?
Well, you know, I have to say, Sean, you know, occasionally I get yelled at by old white women, and I always know that they watch The View, because those are some nasty women on that show, and they have no right to insult anyone's fashion. I was wearing a wool coat, actually, and it's one of my favorite coats because I got it in Wyoming when I was campaigning against and raising money to beat Liz Cheney. And I was happy to wear it to the State of the Union last night because it simply went with my dress. So, you know, I'll challenge the women on The View anytime for a debate because they represent the worst part of America, the worst views. And to be honest with you, no one in my district cares what they think.
I would imagine that to be true. You were in the hearings today, and you may have had the best line of the day in the hearing. You were talking to the former site integrity.
MTG looks like she knows how to fist fight. You can see it in her.
My Twitter account, but you allowed child porn all over Twitter. What does that tell you?
Well, I think Americans should be extremely concerned about that. You know, Hunter Biden's laptop from hell is exactly what we're investigating on the Oversight Committee, thanks to Jamie Comer and many other of my Republican colleagues, and Jim Jordan as well. But you know who else may have a disgusting laptop? That's Yoel Roth, because he's on record with some very disturbing views about minors and child porn. You know, as being the guy in charge of Twitter and safety, he permanently banned my Twitter account for a year during my election. He permanently banned President Trump and many conservative Americans for simply using their freedom of speech. But he allowed child porn to proliferate on Twitter, to the point where a mother and her son had to file a lawsuit to get child porn about him and another minor.
Just stop saying it.
Off of Twitter. Yoel Roth has a lot to be concerned about, and I hope that we investigate him more.
All right, Congresswoman, we're going to follow these hearings very closely. We appreciate you being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Well, the Pentagon is live right now, letting us know about the object being shot out of the sky. I assume that's what everybody's talking about in the chat. Try and tag my name because I don't know things. I just host this by accident. We're going to get this started. Obviously, we're not watching it totally live because I would like to watch it from the very beginning. But they are still live, and this is live, so let's get her started.
To U.S. Northern Command successfully took down a high-altitude airborne object off the northern coast of Alaska at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, within U.S. sovereign airspace over U.S. territorial water. On February 9, North American Aerospace Defense Command detected an object on ground radar and further investigated and identified the object using fighter aircraft. The object was flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight. U.S. Northern Command is beginning recovery operations now. U.S. Northern Command's Alaska Command coordinated the operation with assistance from the Alaska Air National Guard, Federal Aviation Administration, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We have no further details about the object at this time, including any description of its capabilities, purpose, or origin. The object was about the size of a small car, so not similar in size or shape to the high-altitude surveillance balloon that was taken down off the coast of South Carolina on February 4. Separately, U.S. Northern Command continues their recovery operations in support of the recent takedown of the Chinese high-altitude surveillance balloon. Recovery teams have mapped the debris field and are in the process of searching for and identifying debris on the ocean floor. Debris that's been recovered so far is being loaded onto vessels, taken ashore, cataloged, and then moved onwards to labs for subsequent analysis. And while I won't go into specifics due to classification reasons, I can say that we have located a significant amount of debris so far that will prove helpful to our further understanding of this balloon and its surveillance capabilities.
I thought it wasn't a balloon.
Due to less than favorable sea states right now, teams will continue to conduct underwater survey and recovery as conditions permit. The department wants to thank our interagency partners.
B Legend, R.I.P. the Jetsons.
And state and local authorities for their continuing assistance and partnership. In other news, and I think this is important, that we remember a lot of folks and people in Turkey and Syria right now are suffering We want to again express our support for the people of Turkey and Syria as they respond to the deadly earthquakes that struck there earlier this week. In support of ongoing U.S. assistance efforts spearheaded by the U.S. Agency for International Development, U.S. European Command has positioned personnel, equipment, and a range of assets to aid the government of Turkey and its continued search and rescue efforts. This includes the U.S. Navy's George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group repositioning to the eastern Mediterranean Sea to provide logistics, medical, and rotary airlift support if required. Additionally, U.S. Army rotary wing aircraft began flying missions out of Incirlik Air Base in Turkey on February 7 to transport first responders to the most affected populations, and on February 8th, UH-60 Blackhawks transported injured civilians to a local medical facility. U.S. European Command has designated U.S. Naval Forces Europe and Africa as the lead component command overseeing the EUCOM humanitarian assistance and disaster relief efforts within Turkey. To aid in that coordination, U.S. Marine Corps Brigadier General Andrew Priddy, U.S. Naval Amphibious Forces Europe Commander and 2nd Marine Expeditionary Brigade Commanding General arrived in Turkey February 9 to lead military coordination efforts with U.S. agencies involved in the humanitarian aid and disaster relief efforts. We'll continue to provide you with updates as we receive them. EUCOM will be issuing a press release with further details. But again, we offer our thoughts and prayers to the people of Turkey and Syria during this tragic and difficult time. And finally, Secretary Austin welcomed Canadian Minister of National Defense Anand for a bilateral meeting here in the Pentagon today. The Secretary expressed his thanks and appreciation to Minister Anand for the cooperation rendered by Canada in tracking the PRC high-altitude surveillance balloon that violated the sovereignty of both of our countries. During the meeting, both leaders reaffirmed the close defense relationship between the United States and Canada, and a readout will be available later today on defense.gov. And with that, I will take your questions. We'll start with Associated Press, Tara Kopp.
Hi, thank you for doing this. A couple of questions on this latest shoot-down. First, what
He didn't even say anything.
fighter aircraft were used, and what type of munition did they fire? And do you already have Navy assets or Coast Guard assets involved in a recovery process? And then I have a few more.
Thanks, Tara. So the aircraft that took down the object was an F-22 flying out of Joint Base Elmendorf in Alaska. It employed an AIM-9X to take down the object. In terms of assets that are currently involved, in terms of recovery, we have HC-130, HH-60, and CH-47 aircraft participating in that recovery effort.
Okay. You mentioned there was a reasonable threat. Was there also a threat to potentially this object detecting some of our more sensitive radar capabilities that are based in Alaska? And then what hasn't been said is where this object has come from. Is there any indication that this was also a Chinese surveillance balloon object, whatever it is?
Yeah, so at this point, we don't know the origin of the object. Again, we will know more once we're able to potentially recover some of those materials. But the primary concern, again, was the potential hazard to civil flight. And so, again, we'll know more later. Thank you.
No perceived threat to any of the radar installations that we have based in Alaska?
Again, right now, we'll know more once we assess it. We'll just leave it at that. Thank you. Liz.
Thanks for taking my question. What made this threatening enough to shoot down? What is different about this object than the last object that was over Alaska? Because it was chosen not to shoot the last one down over Alaska.
Yeah, so the important thing to understand here is anytime we detect anything, we're going to, first of all, observe it and then make a decision and take appropriate action. So you have to look at each individual case on its own merits. In this particular case, given the fact that it was operating at an altitude that posed a reasonable threat to civilian air traffic, the determination was made and the president gave the order to take it down.
Was there a specific threat, a specific civilian air traffic incident that could have happened?
Again, as you well know, civilian aircraft operate, at a variety of ranges up to 40 to 45,000 feet. So again, there was a reasonable concern that this could present
grab some more coffee. I'll be right back.
Or a potential hazard to civilian air traffic. So let me.
Question. Yep. Has Secretary Austin reached out to his Chinese counterpart or any other counterparts at all since this has been tracked?
Since this particular object, no. Let me go here, and then I'll come over to Orrin.
Things from the previous balloon have been recovered. What additional information you have now about the capabilities of that balloon?
Yeah, so we're continuing to assess that. Again, I'm not able to go into more detail other than, in addition to learning a lot about the balloon and the capabilities that it has while it was over the continental United States, we have identified or located a significant amount of debris on the ocean floor that will be very beneficial to us learning more about it. But at this point in time, I'm not going to have more details.
Manufacturing label on these equipments or the balloons indicate that they're all manufactured in China, sourced from China?
Again, I'm not going to have details to provide it at this point in time.
Also say that 39 other countries have indicated they have seen balloons in their territory. Are you sharing those information from the Pentagon to these countries, or the capabilities, how you shot them down?
So in terms of what we're learning about these balloons, I know the State Department has talked to this in terms of our international outreach. Certainly, the Department of Defense plays a role in those relationships, and so we will continue to work with our allies and partners to share information along with our State Department colleagues. Let me go to Orrin.
Two questions. First, did this object show any signs of maneuverability or propulsion? And then you and other Pentagon officials made a big deal about how much intelligence was gathered by letting the other one float across much of the United States, and yet you shot this one down before it entered the United States. Is that the Pentagon bowing to political pressure? Was there nothing to gain from this one?
Yeah, so again, we're going to judge each of these on its merits. No indication at this time that it was maneuverable, but again, we'll know more. And in terms of entering the United States, it did enter U.S. airspace, and we took it down.
Did you gain intelligence from this one as you did from the previous one?
We're going to recover what we can from this, and more to follow.
And was the decision to shoot it down before it entered too far into the U.S. airspace, the Pentagon bowing to political pressure from the Hill?
Look, again, we're going to judge each of these objects on its own merits. It entered into U.S. airspace on February 9th. We sent up aircraft to assess what it was. The decision was made that it posed a reasonable threat to civilian air traffic. The President gave the order to take it down, and we took it down. Thank you, Laura. And then I'll go to Dan.
Thanks. Sorry. Thanks for taking my question. So a couple questions. First of all, has anything like this happened before with an object this size, this shape, in this particular height for the 40,000 foot range? Has it happened before? And then second of all, can you say more about why you knew that last balloon or object was from China, whereas this one you don't know?
So in terms of this particular object, again, as I highlighted, we don't know where it's from. It posed a reasonable threat to civilian air traffic, and so the determination was made to take it down. In terms of the other balloon, as I mentioned in our previous briefing, we have learned a lot about the Chinese surveillance high-altitude balloon program. We've gathered a lot of information over the last couple of years, and so we were able to, based on that information, detect at a very early stage. As it approached U.S. airspace, we had a good understanding of what it was. As I mentioned, we were able to monitor that closely, track it while it went over the continental United States, learn a lot about it.
I want to hear him call it a UFO.
Would you urge us to put this in a different bucket than that?
It was a flying object that they don't know what it was.
Was traveling at about 40,000 feet, which posed a reasonable threat to civilian air traffic, and the decision was made to take it down. So, Dan.
When the pilots approached it, and they determined, I understand, that it was not manned. How did they determine that? And at that point, wouldn't it be possible to at least describe what they were looking at? Did it resemble a balloon or an airplane or what?
Again, we'll know more and have more information once we recover.
I want to hear someone say, have you identified what it is?
Give credit to our pilots that they're very capable in terms of looking at an object, assessing whether or not this had the potential to be manned at that altitude, something that small.
You hear that, everyone? If you can identify objects, you got what it takes to be an Air Force pilot. That's interesting.
Presented a potential reasonable threat to civilian air traffic, and we took it down.
What speed was it traveling at, by the way?
I don't have that information.
On the Chinese balloon, if we could go back, is it still, in the Pentagon's view, plausible or maybe even likely that it was not necessarily intentional when that balloon turned and blew eastward, that it seemed to have not, had some technical problem?
Yeah. So, Dan, what I would tell you is based on the information that we have, it was being maneuvered and purposefully driven along its track. Again, recognizing that winds do play a role because of the maneuverability of the balloon. It's our assessment that this was a purposeful mission. In terms of the Chinese motivations, again, I'd have to refer you back to China to talk about that. Ma'am, and then come to Nancy.
Snooks, it was a kid's helium balloon.
Sorry, got it. We emailed you police body camera footage showing a National Guard general in Ohio pushing my colleague and having to be escorted away from him this week. We asked the Ohio National Guard for comment, but do you, as a spokesperson for the Department of Defense, condone such conduct by a commissioned officer of the U.S. military against an American journalist?
Yeah, so let me be clear. The answer is no. That's not acceptable behavior. The Secretary of Defense, the Department of Defense, absolutely supports, strongly supports a free and independent press. So again, I'd refer you to the Ohio National Guard for any comment about that particular incident, but I can assure you that that is not acceptable behavior.
Face any kind of conduct on becoming charged under the UCMJ?
Again, I'd have to refer you to them. I'm not going to make those kind of policy comments here from the podium in terms of what they may or may not be doing to address it. It would be inappropriate for me to comment on that. Let me go to Nancy.
I just had a couple clarifying questions. You said that that the pilots were able to see it, that it wasn't the same shape or size as the balloon. Can you say definitively it was not a balloon?
I don't, at this point, considering the fact that we're still assessing the object, I don't want to get into characterizing it, so just leave it at that.
You mentioned you didn't know how fast it was traveling. Can you say if it was traveling faster or slower than the balloon?
I don't have that information in front of me, so I don't want to make it up.
Try a couple more. Did anyone try to, within the administration, contact their Chinese counterparts before the decision was made to shoot it down?
In terms of when you say the administration, if you're referring to the White House, I'd have to refer you to them. The Department of Defense, to my knowledge, did not. Again, we don't know the point of origin of this object. So, yeah.
And was there any effort to jam or somehow disable this object before, such that it would pose less of a threat?
I don't want to get into specific tactics or techniques that we may or may not use when observing these types of things. Again, NORAD sent up aircraft to observe, to see what it was, and then the ultimate decision was made based on the reasonable threat to civilian air traffic to take it down. So thank you. Tony?
A couple things. You mentioned you've recovered a significant or located a significant amount of debris. Is it fair to say you've located a significant amount of the payload?
You're talking about the PRC high altitude balloon.
One today.
So Tony, at this point, I'm not able to go into more detail other than we've discovered or located a significant amount of the debris associated with the balloon. Again, we'll have more details to follow, but I'll just leave it at that.
I thought it wasn't a balloon. I thought it was an object.
Pulled out of the ocean for forensic analysis.
It's just changing as it goes along.
The way to understand how this is unfolding is as we map out the area where the debris field would be, It enables us to figure out where are the places that we need to prioritize a search, recognizing that we're talking a wide area. And so as that happens, divers are able to go down, and depending on the size of the debris, they're able to tag it. So debris that can be brought up quickly is brought up, put on a vessel, taken ashore. Debris that's going to take more time, and again, especially given the current sea states, it may take a little longer. We know where it is, so we tag it, and then we'll go back and eventually recover all of that and bring it up.
It's the equivalent is you found the Titanic, but you haven't started pulling up debris yet from it.
Exactly.
I want to ask you about the overall program. You said you've been learning a lot about this balloon program over the last couple of years, yet the annual China report doesn't have a peep about balloons in there. You spend a lot of money and effort, but no balloons. We learned about Taiwan and China's balance of power against them, and satellites and jets, but no balloons. Why not?
So Tony, what I would say on the unclassified China Power report, right? There's going to be certain elements, intelligence aspects in the unclassified version that may not be included in that particular report. In terms of what's in that report and what's not in that report, again, we can go back and look at that, but I can assure you that there are a lot of activities that we continue to monitor to include this balloon program, and we've learned a lot over the last couple of years.
That the classified version has balloons in there. Is that
I'd have to go back and look. I do not know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let me get a couple other folks here. Mike, and then over.
Pat. The only reason the American people know about the first balloon is because a couple of guys in Montana spotted it and it leaked out. My question is, if it had remained secret and had not become a spectacle and arguably an embarrassment to the White House, would you have shot it down or allowed it to continue on its way?
So you're asking me to speculate? So Mike, I'll kind of just push back a little bit at the assertion there. So first of all, again, what made this balloon different was the length and duration that it was over the continental United States. Look, we track activities all over the globe on a daily basis, some of which will remain classified because, again, we don't want to reveal sources and methods. In this particular case, I can tell you that there were efforts underway to make that public. Montana journalists reporting notwithstanding. All that to say, look, there are going to be times when there's activities happening that we're monitoring that we're not going to go public, especially if it doesn't present a particular or pose a significant threat to the American public. But again, as we monitored that balloon, there was an effort underway to ensure that folks understood what this was, especially given how visible it was. And I'll just stop there. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, General. First, a really quick follow-up on Tony's question. At this point, is the Pentagon reassessing the need for counter balloon or counter object capabilities at that altitude at this time?
So what I would tell you is not, in the Air Force sometimes we talk about don't get platform specific, right? So what we're talking about is monitoring the domain and having domain awareness. And again, as I highlighted, seems like a couple days ago, probably last week, we're continuing to learn more about this program, which enables us to identify and track objects, and thus ensure that we're continuing to protect our skies.
The way he's talking, you would think we've never ever had things in the sky before.
Admiral Kirby know the shape of this new object? And if so, what is sort of the reason for why you can't share its shape before it was shot down? And then separately, how is the recovery efforts of this new object downed over ice different from the one downed over the coast and water? And are you guys using unmanned systems for this new object as well?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of the shape, I don't know. I have not seen any imagery of it.
So it is unidentified.
Characteristics as it was described to me. In terms of the difference in the recovery effort, I mean, again, so this literally was...
This is how we're going to get the new cell phones.
So that's underway right now.
They're going to have to recover it, reverse engineer it. We're going to have cool stuff in about 10 years. That's how we got the iPhone.
Days ahead. Let me go to a few other folks here. Sorry. Some new folks back here, and then we'll go over here to Mike.
You mentioned that the object was spotted yesterday. Is that the first that we saw it?
Or did we see it coming in a couple days before?
No, it was spotted yesterday.
And for follow-up, did what we learned about the first balloon last week, did that help us detect this object?
I would say that, again, when we detect objects, well, let me just back up. So what you're asking is, did what we learned from the PRC balloon help us track this? Kind of a little bit of apples and oranges, right? In terms of NORAD Northcom maintains the ability to track objects. So again, they track this as it approached and entered into U.S. airspace. Again, we're still assessing what this object was. So I don't know that we learned anything new as a result of that, other than, again, I think we're all, to include the media and the public, very attuned to balloons at the moment. So thank you.
Is that the agenda?
Thank you, sir. And just to clarify, so this was first identified when it flew into U.S. airspace, is that correct? Or was it identified before it?
It was detected yesterday, and then, again, NORAD sent up aircraft to observe it, see what it was, and then the decision was made to take it down.
And do you have any information whether this object flew over any other sovereign nations or countries?
I do not. Do not. Okay. We have time for a few more. Let me go to Joe.
Question about the recovery effort. I think you'd mentioned at the outset that it was going to involve rotary wing aircraft. That's because it landed on ice as opposed to water. That's why there isn't watercraft being used. Is it?
Yeah, Joe, we'll get you more information on that front. Again, this happened just a short while ago, and so according to Northcom, these are the assets that were being used to go out and do the initial recovery. But we'll have more information in terms of the various roles and responsibilities of those.
Just get down in the weeds for a second. Any idea what units are involved in the recovery effort or in the F-22 that shot it down?
We can get you that information. Thanks. Phil?
Hey there, just a couple clarification questions. First off, when you first identified it, was it traveling at the same altitude, around 40,000 feet? Did you at that point know its velocity? And secondly, doesn't Northcom have the authority on its own to shoot down unidentified objects entering U.S. airspace if they pose a threat to civilian air traffic?
He said the thing.
Why was the president's authorization required in this case?
Yeah, thanks. So my understanding is it was at 40,000 feet when it was detected and ultimately taken down. The NORAD Northcom commander does not have the authority necessarily to take down an object if it's not posing a potential hostile intent or actions. However, given the fact that this aircraft was, this object was operating at an altitude that posed a reasonable threat to civilian air traffic, after consultation with the secretary and the president, and of course the president, on our advice, gave the order to take it down, and we took it down.
I'm trying to clarify, is his authorization required in a situation like this?
Again, it's kind of a moot point at this point because the president gave the order, but he has the authorization to take action against anything that presents a potential threat to the American public or people on the ground. In this particular case, it was determined that this posed a reasonable threat to air traffic. Again, I'll just leave it at that. Thanks. Tara?
Just a couple of clarifiers. Was it a single F-22 or a pair that were up today for the shot? And then when NORAD sent the initial aircraft up to sea, was there any sort of hailing or any type of warning given? Typically when an aircraft makes an incursion into protected airspace, there's a whole lot of procedures that have to be followed before it would escalate to something like this.
Okay, well, this was an object, right? So it wasn't an aircraft per se. And to answer your earlier question, it was a two-ship of F-22s, but one aircraft took the shot. Got time for one more. Go to Liz.
Really quick, when it was started to be tracked last night, were you able to tell what direction it was coming from?
This was traveling in a northeasterly direction when it was taken down.
And then one more. The aircrafts that were observing it, what type of aircrafts were those?
I'll have to come back to you on. I think I know, but I don't want to make it up from the podium. So we'll come back to you on that one. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it.
And we'll probably never hear of this again. All right, hooligans, we have one more video. My eyes are burning. With the glasses on, they're sweating. Without them, everything's blurry. Wrecking my eyeballs. Anyways, so this next video is just over 5 minutes long. It's titled, Alaska Senator Warns White House on Spy Flights. Next time, we'll shoot it down. This video came out before the object was shot out of the sky. I don't know. I wanted to hear UFO. I mean, the guy asked the question. He said, what about the unidentified flying object? And then there was a response. It's more than I thought we were going to get.
Handling of the Chinese spy flight following yesterday's congressional briefing. Watch this.
Did we know what they're trying to collect? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. We understand that this is a broader part of a broader suite of operations that China is undertaking.
So we knew what they were looking for.
Sir, I think we should talk about this more explicitly in the classified session.
We're just perceived as very weak across the nation, across the world.
Everything I learned today confirms that the administration made the right decision.
As an Alaskan, I am so angry.
We're about to talk to another Alaskan, but this is President Biden downplays the seriousness of the whole thing.
It's not a major breach. I mean, look, it's a violation of international law. It's our airspace. And once it comes in our airspace, we can do what we want with it.
As advertised, joining us right now, guy from Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan. Senator, good morning to you.
Morning, Steve.
So what do you make
Good morning.
of, good to have you. The president said not a major breach, and then he said essentially because everybody spies on everybody else. Yes, they were in our airspace, but everybody does, and it's not that big a deal. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree at all. It's quite a big deal, and I think it's a wake-up call for America. A couple things on this, Steve. First, it reminds us of what the nature of the Chinese Communist Party regime is. They're aggressive. They've been doing this to our country. They've been doing this actually all over the world for a number of years. And then, of course, publicly, they don't tell the truth. They lie to the world. I mean, they're still claiming, believe it or not, that this is some kind of weather balloon. That's ridiculous. You remember when Xi Jinping stood next to President Obama in the Rose Garden saying they weren't going to
look at Winnie the Pooh.
See, that was a lie. Yeah. So we need to make sure that we understand the nature of the adversary we're facing. But then here's the big thing. We need to reestablish deterrence. Right now, the Chinese
sitting there like, oh, bother.
Anytime they want. They've been doing it anytime they want to us and to other countries. And I think what I press administration officials on yesterday was making a public announcement that the next time they do anything like this, particularly over my airspace in Alaska, we're going to shoot them down. To Alaska Command military authorities' credit, we scrambled F-16s, F-35s. We were tracking this balloon before it came into our airspace. We clearly could have shot it down. And next time we need to just tell them, we will shoot it down. That will reestablish deterrence. But right now, we don't have deterrence. They believe they can do this anytime, any place in America and the rest of the world.
I think that's the first time we'd heard that you guys had scrambled jets before it was spotted by the Navy.
And as he does, he looks just like Winnie the Pooh. Every day, a little bit more.
Senator, I know that you were
starting to become copyright infringement.
Yesterday, essentially, around Christmas, Southwest Airlines canceled something like 17,000 flights over 10 days.
Yeah.
And you called Southwest management on the carpet yesterday. Here is the COO who essentially is saying, yeah, we blew it. Watch.
We apologize to those impacted by the disruption. We understand that for many, this is perhaps the most important trip they take all year. So why did this happen? Let me be clear, we messed up.
Senator, how did they mess up?
Are they friend or foe?
They did mess up big time. I mean, that was a nightmare for travel for millions of Americans who actually couldn't get home over the holidays.
Yeah.
They messed up in a couple really big ways. One, their technology systems are not up to speed. And this isn't just Southwest Airlines. This is for major airlines across the country. That came out in the hearing. They have to make sure that they have up-to-date technology. Two, they're not ready for winter. I mean, they admitted they weren't ready for big snowstorms. They have to be ready for big snowstorms, the de-icing capability that we all have, and they have to be able to refund to passengers immediately the cost of tickets and staying in hotels. That took way too long. So that was the big screw up. The other thing, Steve, that I pressed on in this hearing, we always have to remember that we need to focus on safety. Americans take for granted, how safe it is to travel. You may have seen their press reports of a couple near misses in terms of aviation in the last month. We always have to be in front of the safety issues with the FAA, so we continue to have the most safe place to travel in the air in the world, and that's America. But yeah, they screwed up, and the Congress rightfully called them on the carpet.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you were trying to get some answers. Senator Dan Sullivan from the great state of Alaska.
He don't even know where he's from. And now they don't even know what they shot out of the sky. The unknown object that they don't know what the shape was, the size, the color, where it was going, self-propelled, who owns it, how long it's been up there, they have no idea. But like I said earlier, I bet if you launch something in your backyard before that thing even gets some sunlight on it, you have a Black Hawk chopper squad dropping in on you, kicking your windows in, throwing flash bang grenades right into your child's carriage, all that stuff. And they do that a lot here. They're quick to raid houses here because of the legal weed laws. They love those legal weed laws so they can raid your house, hold everybody at gunpoint, including your children, and then they let you go after, you sit in jail 6 months and stuff. That's how they get down. But China wants to send a balloon here. Oh no, we're going to let that roll for 3-4 days. We don't even know where this flying object came from. They were like, well, I guess we better take it down. If the American people see that we just let more balloons fly around, they may start launching balloons, and we can't have that. We will have old man Walter screaming and whispering at us. Make it tight, real tight. Anyways, that's all we had for today's Coffee with Hooligans. We even added to the show. So that's that. I don't have anything else on the schedule. If there is things going on, we will go live if we find something interesting. It is Friday, which I didn't find out till the show started. Thank you, Hooligans, for keeping me informed. So we're going to be doing my little spiel here, and then we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to wrap this up. So give me a second here. See my new little heart falling from the sky there. I paid way too much money to have features like that. But Valentine's Day is coming, so I thought we'd be festive. Anyways, when you get a second, please go to jeffmaclive.com. You can find the link in the description on whichever platform you are watching right now. The homepage has all of my links listed, so you can find the link to join Gilded for free. Gilded is currently the best way to receive notifications for when and where we go live, every time we go live. You'll also receive notifications for important updates. There is a news board on there to keep you up to date with everything going on, and there's a ton of hooligans in there to hang out with every day, all day, to chat it up about whatever you like. So definitely join Gilded. Also on the JeffMAC Live homepage, you can find the links to the merch store if you would like to grab some merch. We have shirts, hoodies, stickers, and coffee mugs. Everything is displayed in black and white or white and black. But if you find something you like, just click on that item to see all of the colors that item comes in. Also on the JeffMAC Live homepage, you can find links for PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Stripe, Zelle, and Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to support what I do. There's also a link to the Amazon wish list if you would like to send me stuff. It's really simple to use. Anything you purchase directly from the wish list will be sent straight to me without you having to send emails or find information or anything like that. It's really simple. And then finally, on the JeffMAC Live homepage, you can find links to join the membership programs. There are links for YouTube, Gilded, Discord, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitch, and now Twitter. Well, I'll be adding that on later anyways. But yeah, that's the deal, and that's my spiel. Let's get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. I appreciate you, hooligans. You guys are so funny. All right. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Look at Cat Daniels back here, snapping it up. He's sitting here smiling. Sitting here napping and smiling. Must be nice to be a cat. Well, that's that, hooligans. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and whatnot. Read through chat really quick. Make sure I don't leave a hooligan behind, because we don't do that. We don't do that around here. Okay, one more reminder. If you guys watch on Facebook, today is the last live on Facebook. I am not going live on Facebook anymore. It's just not worth it. I appreciate the guys and gals that watch over on Facebook. I provide many platforms. All of them are free to watch except for jeffmaclive.com. And Facebook just doesn't treat me right over there. It's not the hooligans, it's the platform. They won't monetize me. They won't give me any of the features that they give the liberal live streamers and stuff. And they just ain't treating me right. So I've provided enough to where you guys can watch on other platforms that are very simple to use. But we are no longer going live on Facebook. I might just delete the whole page. I don't know. I'm still debating if I want to use it for advertisement to bring more people to the other platforms, since I have a Facebook business account. We'll see how it goes, but I won't be going live over there anymore. So make your way to another platform. We have 2 YouTube channels. We have Twitch. We have Odyssey. We have Rumble. I'm live on Twitter. We're live on jeffmaclive.com. So we are leaving Facebook. John, we're not leaving YouTube until they push us out the door. But as things continue, we're going to have Hooligan Bingo. We're going to have a call-in show. We're going to have a few other things. The only way to participate in that is by having a membership on jeffmaclive.com. That is the only way you can participate in that stuff. The membership will give you access to the profile area, the live stream area, what we call the leaderboard, all the group messaging and all that stuff. And then, of course, bingo, the call-ins, you can call directly through the platform. If you're a member on jeffmaclive.com, we can video call each other. We can audio call each other. Our voice chats go up to like 50 members. We can have 50 people video chat each other. We can do group video chat. We can do everything. I paid so much money to be able to do this stuff. We can do more than any other platform. There is no social media platform that can compete with us at all. Anything and everything you can do anywhere, I've put it on the platform. And it's totally free speech. There is no one hovering over us. There's no third-party company monitoring what we do. It's just me. It's just me and all of you. As soon as you guys go over to jeffmaclive.com, get you a membership, and join all the fun stuff we have going on over there. That's that. Okay. I will see you guys on the next Coffee with Hooligans, which will be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Today's Friday, tomorrow's Saturday. So yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow for the next Coffee with Hooligans, unless something crazy happens. But I want to say big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you guys so much for all your support. I'll see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap. Oh, bother.